Chapter 1276, Merging of Universes 1. Master, said Su Ping to the young man before him. He dispelled the chaos force field. Song Yuan and the others walked out. You're the only ones left. The young man slightly changed his expression after seeing them. He said, I'm sorry that you were caught in this celestial battle. Thank you for your sacrifice. Song Yuan recognized their master's aura, realizing it was his clone. They felt both lucky and sad. They offered greetings and then fell silent. Old Huo, I owe you one. I'll return the favor later, said the young man to Kai Huo. Slightly stunned, Kai Huo shrugged and said, Don't talk like that. It's me who owes brother Su one. I would have been in hot water if it weren't for him. The Saint King was acting so unscrupulously that he was also ready to kill me. Brother Su. The young man looked at Su Ping while slightly dazed, soon able to notice something unusual. Su Ping had indeed concealed his aura, but his master detected a profound power inside his body, one that would cause an extraordinary shock if released. Kai Huo explained the situation. Your original self was executed, so it's natural that you don't know what happened. Brother Su somehow broke through, then he killed the Saint King and fed him to his pet. That guy's sordid disciple was also caught by brother Su. Shen Huang was truly astounded. Su Ping killed the Saint King. He even captured his disciple alive. You. Shen Huang looked at Su Ping in disbelief. How could Su Ping, who used to be a mere star lord, achieve such a formidable leap? Su Ping felt depressed due to his master's disbelief. He explained, I've just reached the ascendant state. It wasn't difficult to finish them off. Master, I will surely help you reach the celestial state again. Besides Shen Huang, Kai Huo and his disciples were lost for words after such a declaration. The reason he could kill the Saint King was that he broke through to the ascendant state. They had never seen anyone who could kill beings of higher realms with such ease. Furthermore, it was to kill a celestial while being an ascendant, just like an ordinary person killing an ocean state battle pet warrior. It was crazy. Brother Su is indeed an unparalleled genius. Kai Huo chuckled dryly, not knowing what else to say. He thought that Su Ping had acquired some sort of treasure. Little did he expect to find that the man had only reached the ascendant state. He was already that strong in that realm. They couldn't have accepted the fact since Su Ping could fight a celestial after reaching the ascendant state. After all, it was remarkable enough to fight top heavenly lords while still being a star lord. However, Su Ping slew celestial cultivators like dogs. It was unbelievable. Had I known this, I wouldn't have asked you to compete over the universe dominator's legacy. I underestimated you. Shen Huang snapped out of his stupor and smiled bitterly. He had previously thought that it wouldn't be difficult for Su Ping to enter the celestial state, and that the latter would become one of the top experts once he made the breakthrough. However, to his surprise, Su Ping was an eye-opener again. He was able to kill celestials while still being an ascendant. Advancing to the celestial state would only make him even stronger. A genius of such caliber was definitely qualified to become a universe dominator following his own path. It's all in the past. Something's wrong with the crack in the universe found in the Mayhem Star Zone. It's unclear whether the ancient corpse can block it. If not, maybe our universe will soon be invaded by another universe dominator. Master, stay on Rhea near my store for the time being. Su Ping said to all the people present in a solemn tone, If we're in danger, I'll be able to ensure your safety even if the universe dominator comes. Everybody was stunned. They looked at Su Ping in disbelief. He can protect us, even if the universe dominator showed up. All of them had heard a thing or two about the ancient magic store, Su Ping's backing. But was the store really that powerful? Suddenly it dawned on them. No wonder Su Ping is such a genius. How could such a monster be raised without an unimaginable being as a backer? An invader coming through the crack, a dominator. Shen Huang was slightly stunned by Su Ping's briefing. Kai Huo then pointed at the clone, sending all the relevant information in a wisp of light. Shen Huang stayed silent, quickly accepting the feed and realizing what had happened after his death. The information included the image when Su Ping killed the Saint King and fed the pieces to his pet. Such an image was much more shocking than a simple description. Su Ping also remained silent, fearing that something could happen in the Mayhem Star Zone. If the unknown creature in the crack dealt with the ancient corpse, it would probably be powerful enough to reach them in a flash. They would be in grave danger by then, even if they were standing right outside the store. He led everyone to the celestial quartz orbit, where Rhea was spinning around. Su Ping went back to Rhea and returned to his store. Kai Huo wasn't one for courteously declining the offer. The unknown danger beyond the crack frightened him. Su Ping was at the moment confident of resisting a universe dominator, so he was fine with staying on that unremarkable planet for the time being. All of them quickly followed Su Ping and went to his tiny pet store. Chapter 1277, Merging of Universes 2. The visitors instantly realized the store's extraordinary nature, as their senses were unable to probe its walls. They could only see the things inside the store with their own eyes. The place is indeed special. No wonder Yi Chen was reluctant to enter. He was wanted by the entire universe. If someone stays here all the time, he would in time become the nightmare of all his enemies. Kai Huo thought and understood Yi Chen's mood. He would probably react just as Yi Chen did, eventually being unable to sleep at night. Su Ping turned around and said to the group, "Everybody, this is my pet store. You can stay on this street, but it seems to be crowded right now. I'd advise you to go and buy your own residence. You may seek shelter in my store in case of danger." Kai Hu chuckled. "All right, Brother Su, your store seems to have a flourishing business. There are so many customers here." "Well, the business is not bad. Feel free to train your pets too. Professional training will be personally conducted by me. Right now, I can only train pets up to the Ascendant Realm," said Su Ping. "You know how to train pets too?" Liu Zia was standing next to Kai Huo. She looked at Su Ping in astonishment. Her preconception was that Su Ping had spent all his time cultivating and meditating. Otherwise, how could he grow and become that strong in only 100 years? "As a matter of fact, pet training is my forte," said Su Ping gloomily. He remembered the little skeleton and couldn't help but bite his lips. Everybody shared bewildered looks. A pet trainer. They considered pet trainers as the weakest in their level. They would only advance to train better pets, otherwise they wouldn't need to level up. "Can I train my pets here?" asked a heavenly lord from the Red Fire Star Zone. Su Ping glanced at him and said, "Yes, but you need to wait in line." No longer feeling like talking, he then turned around and entered the store. "Wait in line." The dazed heavenly lord looked at the infinitely stretching line occupying the street, not knowing what to say. Hardly had Su Ping returned to his store when Tang Ruyan, the Green Lady, and the others saw him. Wuxi World, sight they were delighted to greet him. "You're back." Su Ping nodded in silence. In his heart he asked the system, "Is there any way to bring the little skeleton back to life?" "Yes and no," replied the system. Su Ping said gloomily, "I'm not joking, I'm serious." "I am serious too," said the system in a solemn manner. "I never joke when it comes to pets. Although there's a method, you are currently incapable of using it. Technically speaking, it doesn't exist." "What is the method?" Su Ping blurted out in a rush. His unexpected reaction surprised all the people present. They gave him shocked looks. Tang Ruyan and Green Lady were both stunned, both realizing that Su Ping seemed to be acting differently from his usual self. "You will know when the store is promoted to level 9, which is too far away from you right now," said the system. Su Ping was stunned. His store was barely in level 6. There were 3 more levels to go. Su Ping couldn't help but ask, "The store has to be upgraded to the highest level. Doesn't it mean that I need the ancestral gods' core to revive the little skeleton?" The system didn't give him a direct reply. "You could say that. After all, it's completely dead." Su Ping's face looked awful. He also knew that his pet couldn't be any deader. He couldn't even find it in the river of time, as if wiped out from existence. Su Ping thought of a place and asked in a hurry, "Can I find it in the chaotic realm of the undead?" The system said, "The chaotic realm of the undead is the place where the soul essence of all deceased lives is kept. However, your pet's soul essence has been destroyed. It cannot be found there. Then, better focus on improving your own strength. There will be a catastrophe in the near future. Everything you have right now will be gone if you can't survive through it," said the system indifferently after pausing for a long time. Su Ping was stunned. "Everything I have right now." His parents, the Inferno Dragon, the young Chaos Beast, Su Lingyu, his master, and the others. "What kind of catastrophe? Why have you never mentioned it? Does it have to do with the crack in the universe?" said Su Ping as he recalled the scene. The system fell silent and stopped replying. Su Ping asked one more time, but no answer came. He knew it would be pointless to insist. His feelings were a mess. The only positive bit was the future chance to resurrect the little skeleton. Even though it was far off, there was at least a slim chance. A universal catastrophe. "I have to upgrade the store as fast as possible. It'll be only a matter of time given my current influence. It shouldn't take too long." Su Ping's eyes were resolute. His store was not short of customers. He only needed more time to train pets. He looked at the crowded store, then glanced at Tang Ruyan and Green Lady, shaking his head to hint that he was fine. The Cauldron Woman and the Sutra Old Man were busy receiving customers, but Su Ping could tell that they were just pretending. As a matter of fact, all the customers were quiet and obedient. Keeping order was unnecessary. Su Ping remained silent. He left the store and saw his master and the others. Kai Huo had already entered a building near his store, seemingly having become its owner. Su Ping didn't know how he did it, but he wasn't in the mood to asking. Given the power of a celestial expert, buying real estate was a walk in the park. "Master," Su Ping called out, then spoke to Kai Huo telepathically. Kai Huo flashed to meet with Su Ping and asked in surprise, "Brother Su, I want to know all the secrets of the universe, including those related to the planet of origin. I also want you to immediately send your forces to the Mayhem Star Zone, so they can monitor the situation over there," said Su Ping solemnly. Both Celestials felt dazed as they saw Su Ping's expression. They glanced at each other. Shen Huang nodded and said, "I've already learned of the current situation. I sent an exploring team to the Mayhem Star Zone on the most advanced spaceship. They should be arriving shortly and will probably send a message back in no time." "Okay." Su Ping trusted his master's effectiveness. He then asked, "Master, what's the universal catastrophe you mentioned earlier?" Shen Huang looked at Kai Huo, who said, "Brother Su is absolutely qualified to know this. This is actually based on our observations, including the findings of the sages from the planet of origin. The first sign appeared more than 100,000 years ago. We kept on observing and gradually confirmed that a catastrophe would hit our universe. More than 100,000 years ago." Su Ping felt dazed, not expecting such an early sign. "That is correct." Shen Huang said, "It was more than 100,000 years ago. We accidentally discovered that the deep spaces of the universe were moving in a small scale. Ever since then, we've concluded that those movements have a fixed pattern. You know that there are 9 deep spaces which make up the universe. The wall of the universe is found beyond the 9th space. Once you break the wall, you will enter an unknown domain outside the universe. However, not even Celestials are capable of breaking the barrier, so we have never been able to explore the regions beyond." Shen Huang continued, "The deep spaces of the universe have been merging since that first sign, and it has become more obvious in recent times. All the 9 deep spaces will be combined in a couple of thousand years or so, and the universal barrier will become even harder to break, practically indestructible. Most importantly, the sages have determined that once the spaces combine, the universe will automatically collapse. Our universe will shrink." Su Ping was stunned. Combination of deep spaces, shrinking of the universe. A terrifying catastrophe will befall us when all the space in the universe changes and the mass doesn't. A lot of ordinary beings will be squeezed to death without protection, said Shen Huang. Chapter 1278, Primordial Empyrean Master 1. Why is this happening? Su Ping felt compelled to ask. The reason hasn't been figured out yet. There are all kinds of theories. Some claim that the energy in the universe is fatting, but the principle of entropy increase still remains, so the theory was debunked. Shen Huang continued. Others say that the universe used to be solid until it was somehow divided into 9 layers. They are fusing right now, returning to their original state. So far, this is the most reliable theory, but it doesn't have any substantial evidence. Kai Huo said, if the universe is combined, the remains from ancient times found in deep spaces and the whispers of the ancient lords that were sealed deep in the universe will be released to the primary space. Ordinary people would be squeezed to death, and the weaker battle pet warriors would go crazy because of the remaining prehistoric power. Only star lords and above will be able to move freely by then. Shen Huang nodded solemnly. However, there are only 1,000,000 star lords scattered across the universe. That doesn't even compare with the population of a Tier 5 planet. We would have to keep all the weaker beings in our small universes. We'll ask the Ascendant State cultivators to accommodate civilians in their small worlds. According to the future scenario, all the people will be living inside Ascendant dominions, and each owner of said dominions would be seen as a lord, said Kai Huo. Su Ping fell silent after the briefing. There seemed to be a solution, even though the catastrophe itself was a delicate matter. After all, there had been signs of its coming since more than 100,000 years prior. Su Ping's master and the others had probably considered many countermeasures. I don't think this is the same catastrophe mentioned by the system. Otherwise, the system wouldn't have warned me in such a way. The shrinkage of the universe poses little threat given my current strength. Su Ping's eyes glittered. He felt that the shrinking of the universe was probably just the beginning. The real catastrophe had yet to begin. In any case, he had to improve his strength and upgrade his store as fast as possible. Master, I want to know more about the planet of origin. How many celestials are there besides the 12 of you, and who are the sages you mentioned? Su Ping asked quickly, trying to find out more about the top secrets of the universe. Shen Huang and Kai Huo looked at each other. The former answered, right now, you are indeed qualified to know everything. I will send a request to the planet of origin to raise your identity to the highest tier, so that you can browse through all the secrets recorded in the past 1,000,000 years of our universe. The planet of origin is the brain of this federation, as well as the center of the federal government. The sages lead the federal government and are the pinnacle of human wisdom. Their brains have evolved significantly. They are both politicians and the best scientists. They take care of all affairs pertaining to the Federation. Even though us Celestials control the 12 star zones, we're only independent lords to some extent. We have to file applications to the planet of origin when it comes to the top-level matters, such as raising your identity to Tier 9, which requires their permission. I have clearance to raise it to Tier 7. Tier 8 is for talents who have made remarkable contributions to the Federation, such as top heavenly lords, top trainers, top generals, and the like. Shen Huang continued, the sages are mostly star lords, very few are in the ascendant realm. They're smart and good at scheming. Although talented in cultivation and fighting, their journey to the ascendant state depends on devotion and concentration. Oftentimes they're too distracted to advance their cultivation. Considering the Federation's advanced science and abundant resources, it's already impressive that they become star lords. They usually live between 100,000 and 200,000 years. Ascendant state sages are mostly as strong as heavenly lords. They're the leaders of all sages. Aside from sages, there are also saints. Saints are the planet of origin's armed forces commanded by the sages. The Saint King you met and Kaephalet are both saints from the planet of origin. There are only 3 Saint Kings on the planet of origin, the first generation, the second generation, and the third generation. The one I fought is the third generation Saint King, the only one who is roaming in the universe right now. The first generation and second generation Saint Kings retired when the third generation Saint King grew up. It is said that they're spending their retirement on the planet of origin, studying the ways of universe dominators. Kea Follett has apparently grown up. She should be the fourth generation Saint King. There are two more Saint Kings. Su Ping was surprised by the planet of origin's might. There were three Saint Kings, all of celestial cultivation residing on the planet. No wonder it was the de facto center of the Federation. Why would the three Celestials listen to the sages? Asked Su Ping curiously. The sages were of a much lower cultivation. Could they subdue Celestials with their wisdom alone? Su Ping believed in physical strength. Even the smartest people had to rely on some medium to convey their wisdom. They could be knocked out with a punch if they ever met a reckless individual, and all of their wisdom would be for naught. This involves the planet of origin's greatest secret. Chapter 1279, Primordial Empyrean Master 2. Kai Huo continued with a solemn expression. Behind those sages is a big shot who was born before the Federation was founded. We call him Empyrean Master. This Empyrean Master established the Federation and led it from the incipient planet of origin to the interstellar age. He vanquished many primitive planets during his conquest, pacified a lot of dangerous regions, and subdued countless beasts with his army. The age of the grand universe began from then on. Countless human talents emerged and humankind rose to prominence. So, the Empyrean Master made the curtain call, establishing the Federation's current system. Sages control everything, and while the saints suppress everything. Celestial experts like us are essentially kings placed at the borders of the Federation, appointed and sent out by the planet of origin. We seem to hold power in our respective star zones, but we are restrained by the sages in many ways. For instance, we cannot declare war amongst ourselves. We have to enter the deeper spaces whenever we duel, or go to the uninhabited regions in the universe. Easy. This measure is to prevent our battles from wreaking havoc and hurting the innocent. Empyrean Master. Dazed, Su Ping asked, is this Empyrean Master alive? Is he a universe dominator? I'm not sure, but even if he isn't, he's probably close, said Shen Huang. A while back, some celestial challenged the planet of origin's authority. That was when the first generation Saint King was active. That celestial attacked the planet in the hopes of overtaking the current regime and becoming king of the universe, but he was suppressed by the Empyrean Master. That's right. I heard that the celestial expert is still imprisoned in the planet of origin, tortured day and night. I heard him screaming all the way from the nucleus of the planet when I went for a visit, said Kai Huo. Su Ping was slightly stunned. The celestial expert was imprisoned and tortured for that long. What about the Heavenly Devil Alliance then? I paid a visit to the planet of origin to speak about that matter, said Shen Huang. I hope to meet the Empyrean Master and ask his opinion, but the sages told me that he was in secluded meditation and everything was still within his expectations. They said that the Empyrean Master would take care of everything when the time came, then asked me to go back home and wait. Shen Huang frowned. Back then, I suspected that something had happened to the Empyrean Master. Their inactivity in the face of universal turmoil was strange. Later, I met with the previous Saint Kings. I didn't find much, but the Empyrean Master was probably alive, based on their attitude. They wouldn't have been so obedient otherwise. They would have definitely been among the first batch of rebels. Kai Huo chimed in. No one knows what was wrong with the guy from the Doom Star Zone. He conspired with the Ancient Fellow and established an alliance. Both of them will die when the Empyrean Master returns. Su Ping felt intrigued after hearing that. Mo Rai was still in his universe of chaos. He could interrogate him later. A lot has happened in the universe as of late. Let's try to stay in the Celestial Court. We'll be safe for a while even if the Empyrean Master comes, thanks to the artifacts I have set up, Shen Huang said to Su Ping. You killed the third-generation Saint King. No one knows what the Empyrean Master will do. We also have to figure out whether the third-generation Saint King was following orders or if he was acting on his own. I know. Su Ping nodded. Once getting to the bottom of things, he just had to be strong enough to stop caring about any punishment or retaliation. Besides, no matter what this Empyrean master's realm was, he was not in the mood to mess with him just yet. The catastrophe mentioned by the system made him feel anxious, and the matters related to the crack in the universe were unclear. He had just broken through and became much stronger. He still considered himself too weak to control everything. I have to become stronger as quickly as possible. The Chaos Star Chart helped me rise to the Ascendant state. It's the technique that the system gave me at the very beginning, my foundation. I will surely gain the power to control life and death if I'm able to cultivate to the top. Su Ping's eyes glittered. The Chaos Star Chart was divided into 3 basic levels, namely the Star Vortex state, the Astral Body state, and the Astral Painting state. He had already perfected the Astral Painting state. The astral paintings in his body had constituted a universe of chaos. System, what's the next level of this technique? Su Ping asked the system. Do you wish to exchange for the 4th level of the Chaos Star Chart? Asked the latter, its voice turning mechanic again. Just tell me the price. 10 million energy points. The system was quite straightforward. Su Ping recited the number and displayed the store panel. Considering his current balance amounting to more than 30 million energy points, he immediately chose to exchange. The Tao Heart state, the 4th level of the Chaos Star Chart, has been purchased. Detailed information will be transferred immediately or at any other time of the host's choosing, reminded the system. His savings were concurrently reduced by 10 million. The Tao Heart state. Su Ping chose to accept. A stream of information quickly flooded into his head. It wasn't until a couple of seconds passed that Su Ping finally recovered. There was a mysterious and powerful cultivation technique inside his mind. Cultivate the Tao Heart, the soul of the universe. Su Ping was slightly dazed. The training technique was rather difficult to understand. Seeing that Su Ping was distracted, Kai Huo called out to him, "Brother Su." Su Ping snapped out of his inner workings and looked at those present. He immediately said, "You should live near my store for the time being. If anything happens, just hide in my store and you'll be safe. There's not much time left. A universal catastrophe is bound to hit in the near future. I need to make the most of the time available and cultivate so I can be strong enough to protect myself." A catastrophe. Both Shen Huang and Kai Huo were stunned. Kai Huo asked in surprise, "Is it the shrinking of the universe?" "It could be something even worse," said Su Ping. The seniors couldn't help but look at each other in shock. By then they knew better and wouldn't easily dismiss whatever Su Ping said, not just because he was stronger, but also because of the mysterious store helping him. Su Ping's words could be direct messages from the magic store. They were paying close attention. "What kind of catastrophe?" Kai Huo asked, hoping to know more. Su Ping shook his head. "We'll know when it happens. It is still unpredictable." Kai Huo was dazed for a moment and could only put on a bitter smile. He wasn't thinking that Su Ping was being purposefully mysterious, not after he warned them of the upcoming catastrophe. "Let's prepare, since it's bound to happen sooner or later," said Shen Huang. They exchanged a few glances, then bid farewell. Before they left, Su Ping told his master via telepathy that he wanted to know as soon as possible if any report came from the Mayhem Star Zone. Shen Huang naturally accepted. He would have informed his disciple even if he didn't ask. After all, Su Ping was the strongest man in the celestial court at the moment. He too had to rely on that young man. Su Ping then returned to his store and kept mumbling the system's technique. The Tao Heart state. If condensing a universe was a sign of the celestial state, was the Tao Heart state a sign of a god emperor? System, how many levels does the Chaos Star Chart have? Su Ping asked inwardly. The standard version has 5 levels, replied the system. Su Ping was dazed. What about the non-standard version? There isn't a non-standard version, only the perfect version, said the system. The perfect version has a 6th level but is only theoretically possible. Nobody has ever been able to cultivate it, not even your predecessors. Is it possible that the theory isn't all that reliable? Asked Su Ping in suspicion. He found the system to be acting strangely, as it would never mention its previous hosts voluntarily. It's because you're too stupid, said the system angrily. Su Ping could picture a pair of rolling eyes in his head. Su Ping was in no mood to argue with the system. The standard version had 5 levels. If the Tao Heart state corresponded with the universe dominator realm or that of the God Emperor, then the 5th level should probably match with the ancestral God state. There was also a theoretically possible 6th level. So to speak, there should be levels above the ancestral God state in the system's eyes. Chapter 1280, Time of Turmoil 1. Did something happen outside? Green Lady approached Su Ping and asked worriedly, I detected a lot of powerful auras, including 2 that are as strong as deity kings. They are the celestial experts in this world, right? Su Ping came back to his senses. He noticed the concern showing in Tang Ruyan's eyes, so he shook his head and said, Don't worry, I've got you covered. So, did something really happen? Tang Ruyan couldn't help but ask. Is it dangerous? Are you in danger? All dangers were caused by my own weaknesses, which I will overcome, said Su Ping. Tang Ruyan bit her lip and said, But we want to share the burden. That's right, Green Lady nodded. She gazed at Su Ping and continued, I can tell that you're already a golden deity right now, very close to becoming a deity king. In an emergency, feel free to eat me. I know you can cultivate and become a deity king on your own, but you might not have enough time. Please stop offering yourself to be eaten, said Su Ping rather helplessly. There's no way that I'd eat you, but you're right, there may not be enough time. So this store is yours, take care of it for me. Hasn't the store always been ours? Said Tang Ruyan in a low voice. Where, Anna, still training in seclusion, Su Ping changed the subject. Yes. Green Lady nodded and said, This is a crucial step for her, it will take a lot of time. Su Ping wasn't really anxious. He looked at the customers in the store and said, Business continues as usual for now. Also, professional training is now available. I'll do it myself. Try to recommend professional training to the customers. We need to make as much money as possible. Make money? Both of them were rather puzzled. Su Ping didn't bother explaining. He spoke to his master telepathically, hoping that the latter could have his parents and Su Lingyu sent to Ria, all to make it easier for him to take care of them. Shen Huang immediately accepted the request. Su Ping called the Cauldron Woman and the Sutra Old Man, pretending to be busy as always, and went to the still inactive Chaos Spirit pool room. However, there was still a vague ancient aura from the place. It was the first time for the two to enter the room. After all, they had no access to the closed rooms in the store without Su Ping's permission. We haven't slacked off recently, said the Cauldron Woman in a hurry. She somehow became nervous when she saw Su Ping, having felt that he was completely different after the last trip. His aura was both profound and frightening. That's right. The Sutra Old Man nodded quickly and obediently. Alarms were firing in his heart. He could tell that Su Ping's status was unusual and was much more afraid of the young man who had inherited the magic store. Su Ping had no time to waste on them. He fetched Yi Chen from the universe of chaos. Yi Chen, who had been squeezed into a meatball, was soon stretched to his original appearance like a plastic ball after being ejected from the small universe. Hardly had the man regained his freedom when he saw the Cauldron Woman and the Sutra Old Man. He slightly changed his expression and soon noticed the Chaos Spirit pool behind Su Ping. His eyes narrowed. An ancient well that contains the power of chaos. Yi Chen. Both the Sutra Old Man and the Cauldron Woman were stunned, eyes wide. They didn't expect Su Ping to take Yi Chen out. Are they working together now, or? On your knees. Su Ping's eyes were cold. His power was directly imposed on Yi Chen. After a bam, Yi Chen was instantly forced to his knees. He pressed his hands against the ground, trying to stand up. The pair of artifacts looked at Su Ping in disbelief, realizing that there was still enmity. However, Su Ping was displaying an unimaginable power. How long did it take for Su Ping to grow so strong? Kneel and repent. You too will be responsible for supervising him in the future. Feel free to play and abuse him however you see fit, said Su Ping as if he were a devil. The Sutra old man glanced at Yi Chen, who was still struggling to get up, and replied quickly, "Yes, boss." "All right." The cauldron woman nodded quickly, not daring to breathe aloud. They previously feared the young man because of the store, but now it was all because of Su Ping's own blood-curdling strength. They no longer dared to disrespect him. "Both of you carry emperor-level potential. I will refine you later and turn you into real emperor-level artifacts," said Su Ping to the Sutra old man. "Now, I want all the useful information you have recorded in your book body." Both of them were stunned. The old man said in a hurry, "Boss, I'll tell you everything you want to know." Hello. At this moment, Yi Chen, still on his knees, sneered with difficulty. "Trust this old fart and prepare to die. I was cautious for years, but he still betrayed me in the end. Don't think I don't know that you raised me just to possess me later and become an emperor." "Enough with your nonsense," roared the Sutra old man. "You were just a piece of garbage in the beginning. You would have died in the servant's room without my training. Were you ever aware of your potential? How could you accomplish all those things if I hadn't taught you how to improve your potential?" Chapter 1281, Time of Turmoil 2. Achievements. Yi Chen glared at him with bloodshot eyes. "What achievements? I used to be a servant in a divine sect. However, I ended up becoming a great devil that everybody wanted to kill after cultivating your evil arts. Was that what I wanted?" "Evil arts can be used to save people too. Arts are innocent. Besides, didn't you enjoy yourself when you slaughtered all those people?" roared the Sutra old man. Yi Chen sneered and said, "Is that so? But the requirement to cultivate your evil arts was human blood and souls. How could I refuse to slaughter them? The cultivation technique you taught me was to prepare me so you could possess me later. Unfortunately for you, I was prepared, so I didn't give you a chance. I sincerely raised you up, and yet you were always vigilant. You're even slandering me to this day. Have you ever been grateful to me?" The Sutra old man gnashed his teeth. "Ha, you had evil schemes, and you blame me for not being grateful. Once you said that you wouldn't have become a devil if those people had trusted you. Did you ever trust me?" The old man stared at him. Yi Chen sneered. "I've never trusted anyone. That's the reason why I'm still alive. You taught me that too. Have you forgotten?" The old senior's lips moved, but stayed silent. "Shut up," said Su Ping indifferently. The pressure on Yi Chen's back increased. He was forced to sprawl on the ground, fighting to escape like a wriggling worm. He glared at Su Ping angrily. Su Ping snapped his fingers, shooting out two sword auras that darted through his eyes, causing blood to flow out. Yi Chen screamed furiously. Su Ping snapped his fingers again and cut his tongue. Both the cauldron woman and the Sutra old man changed their expressions as they saw Yi Chen's plight, then looked back at Su Ping, terrified. Such actions worked as a sharp reminder. That young man wasn't easy to mess with. He disrupted Yi Chen's plan and tricked them into entering the store when he was but a star lord. How could such a badass be harmless? "There is no need to sow discord between us. I have my own means to investigate," said Su Ping indifferently while he looked at the Sutra old man. "Lore?" The latter felt cold sweat rushing down on his back. He found that Su Ping was even more intimidating than Yi Chen, who was writhing on the floor. He quickly said, "Boss, trust me. He's just paranoid. I'm not as despicable as he tries to describe me." "I believe you," said Su Ping. The Sutra old man was dazed. "So let me read you directly," said Su Ping. The Sutra old man instantly changed his expression. He said hesitantly, "I." Su Ping interrupted him, "It won't be here, don't worry." Then he glanced at Yi Chen and suddenly punched down. After a boom, an illusion of the universe of chaos was gathered in his palm. The screaming man on the floor suddenly raised his head. All the screaming seemed to have been all a ruse. He unleashed his own small universe to face Su Ping's attack. But the next moment, his small universe exploded. RSE. It was directly pierced by Su Ping's universe of chaos. His body instantly fell apart too. Yi Chen's pieces of flesh screamed after the small universe was destroyed. Such screams originated from the mental power embedded in the flesh. Su Ping waved a hand and collected the pieces of flesh, sending them back to his universe of chaos. "Let's go, I'll take you somewhere," Su Ping said to them. The expressions of both artifacts changed, but neither of them dared to speak. Su Ping walked out of the room and asked something to Green Lady. He picked a few pets from the register for the professional training. He then returned to the room and signed temporary contracts with the pets. He picked the demigod burial in the end. Su Ping arrived in the demigod burial world soon after. This time, he carried the Sutra Old Man and the Cauldron Woman in his universe of chaos. Both of them were considered weapons. He had yet to claim him as his own, but they could still enter cultivation sites. This is. The two of them looked around, shocked by the mountains, rivers, and the strange auras. They had only stayed briefly in Su Ping's universe of chaos, and then appeared in such a strange place. Su Ping ignored them. He summoned the Inferno Dragon, the Dark Dragon Hound, and the young Chaos Beast. This time, the little skeleton was not among them. He felt rather frustrated. His heart was cramping. However, he remembered what the system said and knew that sadness wouldn't solve the problem. Might as well spend the time training pets and upgrading the store. That way he could see the little skeleton sooner. The young Chaos Beast and the others looked around vigilantly after they got out, but then felt relieved after seeing the familiar sight. They let out joyful sounds when they saw that Su Ping was safe. But soon, they noticed that one of them was missing. After hesitating for a moment, the Inferno Dragon asked in a low voice, "Where Boney?" Su Ping was silent for a moment. Then he slightly shook his head. "He's gone for now, but we'll meet him again." The Inferno Dragon was stunned, and so were the young Chaos Beast and the Dark Dragon Hound, who were all joy moments before. They exchanged grim and angry looks. "I've already taken care of the enemy. What we need to do right now is strengthen ourselves, so that we may bring him back to life," said Su Ping in a low voice. The Dark Dragon Hound howled at the sky like a wolf, mixing grief and killing intent. The Inferno Dragon was surrounded in flames. It was silent, with solemnity in its eyes. The Sutra Old Man and the Cauldron Woman guessed something, but stayed quiet after sensing the general mood. They simply stood aside timidly. "Let's go." Su Ping took a deep breath and held back his grief. He then took the group to a place where the superior gods lived. He was extremely sensitive to the environment thanks to his universe of chaos, and could detect a few powerful auras scattered the demigod burial, billions of kilometers away. The next moment, Su Ping performed void walking and led everybody to the temple. When he used the power of his universe, he would truly walk in the void. The mysterious skill was performed as if it were an inborn ability. "Huh!" An exclamation sounded. A beautiful figure appeared in the temple. It was none other than Avril, who thought that Heather had taken Su Ping to that place when she saw her. But she soon realized that Su Ping was carrying an obviously different aura. "Have you reached the superior level?" asked Avril in a daze. Su Ping didn't comment on that. He said, "No, but you may consider that I have." Avril didn't quite understand what Su Ping meant by that. She was puzzled for a moment. "Anna is training in seclusion to reach the superior state. I've come here because I have a favor to ask. Last time I saw a lot of ores and treasures in your vaults. I was wondering if I could borrow them," said Su Ping briefly. "For the superior state." Avril was dazed, then wore a conflicted expression as she remembered Joanna's aura from their last encounter. Joanna becoming a superior god only needed time to happen. 3 more figures appeared in the void just then. They were Heather, Ebor, and Chevalelo. They saw Su Ping and were surprised that Joanna wasn't with him. 4 deity kings. The Sutra Old Man and the Cauldron Woman were shocked to see the 4 powerhouses. Such a lineup was rather intimidating. They also felt that the 4 people were ancient gods, who could be stronger than the deity kings they knew, even if they were on the same level. Chapter 1282, Ancestral Devil 1. Chevalier chuckled and voluntarily greeted Su Ping. We meet again. Learned his lesson. He knew he had to make friends with Su Ping if he wanted to return to the Archean divinity. Yes, I'm here to ask for your help. I have to trouble you again. Su Ping was rather courteous. After all, it was slightly embarrassing to ask for their help again and again. Avril informed Chevalier and the others of the situation via telepathy. Their expressions changed, then looked at Su Ping as well as his companions, hesitating. Fine. Since you've asked in person, we can only do our best. Chevalier chose to accept after much deliberation. After all, he had already lost a fortune to Su Ping. All his losses would be for naught if he were to give up at that moment. Thank you. Su Ping nodded. There may soon be a chance to help you contact some experts of the Archean divinity. I hope someone can take this place back to where it belongs. All four of them were dazed, their eyes lit up. Avril asked in delight, really? I'll try my best, said Su Ping. As long as you try your best, we'll be eternally in your debt. Even if you fail, said Chevalier solemnly, anticipation showing in his eyes. Su Ping nodded. They became silent after showing their stance. They opened their respective treasuries, allowing Su Ping and his companions to pick whatever they wanted. Wasn't the Archean divinity already destroyed? Mumbled the Sutra old man in his heart while following Su Ping. He recalled how Su Ping tricked them into entering his store. He had a feeling that the boy was fooling those four celestials. But obviously he wouldn't say a thing. After all, Su Ping was doing this for them. They soon found a lot of rare items in the four treasuries. The cauldron woman was astounded. She could melt all things. The more treasures she melted and absorbed, the stronger she would become. Having such an assorted display of wealth that she was free to pick, she began to act like a starving refugee that had suddenly found a warehouse filled with food. What do you need? Su Ping looked at the Sutra old man. The latter's expression changed a bit, feeling that Su Ping had seen through his heart. However, he replied casually, I used to be an emperor-level Sutra. However, my path was broken in a battle, just like a man having his spine extracted. That's why my level plummeted. I may be able to fix myself if I can find a blade to accommodate the imperial path. There aren't any emperor-level blades here. Su Ping shook his head. I can only try to heal myself with the rare medicine then, but the chances of recovery are slim, said the Sutra old man bitterly. Su Ping glanced at him but didn't say anything else. Once the cauldron woman picked enough materials, he left the treasuries and handed the cauldron woman to the four celestials. After that, Su Ping tore the void apart and took the Sutra old man away. He also left his pets behind. Boss, where are we going? The Sutra old man followed Su Ping uneasily. They soon stepped out of the void. It was a desolate place at the edge of the demigod burial, right in the middle of nowhere. You are my weapon. I'm going to claim you right now. Are you willing to accept? Asked Su Ping. Dazed for a moment, the Sutra old man managed a smile. Boss, being the heir of the magic store, you will surely rise to the ultimate peak. I was an emperor-level Sutra in the past, but I'm crippled right now. I'm afraid I'll become a burden for you. That's all right. Boss. Is that a no? Su Ping's eyes turned cold. Greatly scared, the Sutra old man quickly said, No, of course not. Are you still questioning my loyalty, boss? I'm absolutely loyal to you. If you want to claim me, it will be my honor. Okay. Su Ping wasted no time talking. He simply released some of his soul aura to him. The Sutra old man hesitated for a moment, then finally accepted Su Ping's connection. Su Ping was soon able to detect the Sutra old man in his consciousness. It was different from a pet contract, as the link with a weapon was only a simple connection. Still, that simple connection was all that Su Ping needed. He suddenly dragged the Sutra old man unto himself. Boss, the Sutra old man was greatly shocked, puzzled and scared. Don't resist. I will read all your information, said Su Ping indifferently. Su Ping's consciousness entered the old man's body, which had a special structure. Hardly had it entered when Su Ping noticed a surge of information. The Fiend's Book. Su Ping found the sutra old man's real name from his delving into the information. Then he started turning the pages, one by one. Bossy. The old man gritted his teeth and tried to stop it. However, he couldn't resist Su Ping's mental invasion, having acknowledged Su Ping as his master. Besides, he couldn't even if he wanted to. Su Ping was able to suppress Yi Chen with ease. He was far stronger. The only way for him to resist it was to destroy himself. A collection of evil arts indeed, remarked Su Ping as he read. The arts written on the book were extremely vicious. Only the unscrupulous villains would be willing to cultivate them. There were violent and bloody techniques, as well as horrible sorcery. Are these the evil arts cultivated by Yi Chen? There's also the ancient devil's constitution. Aside from cultivation techniques, there were also many other secret techniques in the book, including ways to gain special constitutions. The constitution used by Yi Chen earlier on was exactly condensed through a cruel method, looting other constitutions, bloodlines. Chapter 1283, Ancestral Devil 2. Su Ping's own bloodline of the primitive Chaos clan was a combination of gods, the soul race, and ancient deities. So, he wasn't surprised that a constitution could be improved by absorbing more bloodlines, although this seemed to be confidential in the Federation. Combining bloodlines was extremely risky. One could lose control and die easily without the right recipe. It was very likely a forbidden cultivation method in the Federation. As expected of an Emperor-level sutra, the practitioner can reach the highest level, the God-Emperor state. Unfortunately, these arts require too many sacrifices. The processes are too gory and cruel. It would be perfect in war times, where there are plenty of bodies lying around. Su Ping skipped the cultivation techniques and kept reading. Some secrets popped up soon after. The Age of Emperors fall. Deity emperors perished one after the other, and the arrival of a mysterious power. Ancient evil gods woke up, order collapsed. Reincarnation secret technique. Summoning the ancestral devil. The more Su Ping read, the more shocked he became. He was even more shocked than when he read the part with cultivation techniques. That book had records of many secrets from the age of deities, the time lived by the Sutra old man. Although the records were ambiguous, one could infer that an external ancient power had awakened and destroyed the deities in their peak era. A lot of deity emperors perished. The Emperor-level sutra luckily obtained an incomplete secret technique that could summon an ancestral devil from a long time past. The requirement to summon the ancestral devil was a sacrifice. Sacrifice someone who's been reborn. Su Ping finally realized that the old man was indeed scheming. Yi Chen had good reason to be wary of the Emperor-level sutra, which was only raising someone to be sacrificed. After reading all the information, Su Ping stared at the sutra old man with cold eyes. You want to summon the ancestral devil. The latter opened his eyes with a conflicted expression. Su Ping had read his deepest secrets and he couldn't resist. He knew it was no longer necessary to hide them. Yes, he admitted frankly. Why? Su Ping stared at him. The sutra old man chuckled, his answer laced with mockery. If you've read all my records, you should know how horrifying the Age of Emperors fall was. Even the deity emperors collapsed one by one. The other deities fell like raindrops. None of the living creatures were able to resist the brunt of such catastrophe. They were like mosses, ready to be trampled upon. The catastrophe didn't come to an end. Deities were destroyed at their strongest, and nobody knows when those things will reappear. We must exterminate them in order to save our lives. The only way to achieve that is to suppress them with the ancestral devil from ancient times. Su Ping raised his eyebrows. That is why you raised Yi Chen and helped him reach the celestial state, knowing he would perish but not completely. You taught him the reincarnation technique, just so that you could sacrifice him after being reborn, all to summon the ancestral devil. This would give you the opportunity to change everything that happened. That is correct. The old man said casually, this is no accident. I had been with him all the time. Everything was under my control, including his wary attitude towards me. As a matter of fact, although I had plans for his body, it wasn't for myself. He just had the wrong idea. I would have been able to sacrifice him once I gathered all the materials for the ritual, no matter how far away he was, if only I hadn't been tricked into your store. Su Ping was silent for a moment, suddenly realizing how terrifying the mind of the emperor-level sutra from ancient times was. From the beginning to end, Yi Chen was just a tool being manipulated. Both master and disciple had been cautious, plotting against each other. Still, he didn't sympathize with Yi Chen, not after the little skeleton perished because of him. "Is the ancestral devil you mentioned really so powerful?" asked Su Ping. "He can bring the dead back to life." "Of course," said the sutra old man casually, "reviving the dead and commanding all heavens, that's the legend of the ancestral devil. When everything falls and you want to save a ruined age, the only way is to ask the ancestral devil to reverse everything. Why are you doing this? For the common folk?" Su Ping stared at him. The evil cultivation techniques he read earlier were all at the cost of human lives. He found it hard to believe that the evil sutra was doing everything for the sake of the people. The sutra old man's eyes twitched for a moment. He looked at Su Ping and said, "Before you, I had another master." Su Ping was stunned. In the age of emperor's fall, she stepped up to save the people and died. Even though she was the master in the palace of evils, I knew that she was more kind-hearted than many men who appeared to be righteous. Although she had me, she never practiced the arts in my records, nor did she kill the innocent. With unusual gentleness in his eyes, the sutra old man said, "While the other deity emperors were still pushing blame onto each other, she fought back with the palace of evils. I spent my entire life gazing at her back. She shouldn't have perished in such a sad way just like that. I must bring her back to life." An intense light burst out of his eyes while he spoke, as if flames were burning inside them. Su Ping somehow felt that those eyes were familiar. He thought of the little skeleton. Yes, he also had a partner he had to bring back to life, no matter the cost. "I understand." Su Ping gazed at him and said, "The ancestral devil you mentioned must be stronger than deity emperors. Have you ever heard of ancestral gods? Are they on the same level?" The sutra old man looked at Su Ping, surprised by his empathic response. He considered for a moment but then shook his head. "No, but the ancestral devil is indeed stronger than deity emperors. That is a legendary realm." Su Ping nodded and said, "I support your idea of summoning the ancestral devil. I will help you collect the materials for the ritual." Stunned, the sutra old man looked at Su Ping with widened eyes. "Are you serious? Do you think of yourself as my friend, one that I make jokes to?" "No, of course not." The sutra old man quickly shook his head. "It's just that I'm trying to summon an ancestral devil. Aren't you afraid that it will threaten your safety?" Su Ping was both dazed and amused. "You're overthinking." The old man was puzzled for a moment. Su Ping's confidence made him think of the mysterious store. Is it possible that the store doesn't fear ancestral devils? He didn't ask further. Su Ping's reaction had already given him an answer. In any case, it was already a pleasant surprise that Su Ping didn't destroy him after learning of his plan, not to mention that he had voluntarily offered a hand. "Let's go." Su Ping took the sutra old man back. They returned to the temple. Su Ping saw that the cauldron woman, being watched over by the four superior gods, had resumed her original dark red cauldron appearance, where a lot of treasures were melting. Su Ping watched for a moment, finding that the flames weren't as powerful as he expected. He immediately said to the cauldron woman, "You need a powerful fire." "I know, but I couldn't find it." The cauldron woman had been enjoying herself, but then felt frustrated when she heard that. "I'll help you." Su Ping remembered the Archean divinity. It was time to pay another visit to the place. He left the old book behind and trained his customers' pets in the dangerous places of the demigod burial. Su Ping remembered having seen a few strange natural volcanoes when he explored those places earlier. He visited those volcanoes again and fetched their natural fire. He threw the fire he collected to the cauldron woman. The flames inside the cauldron obviously became more powerful. The treasures were melting faster. Chapter 1284, Closing of the Crack 1. 7 days later. Back in the temple, the flames inside the cauldron placed at the center gradually died out. The dark red patterns on its surface became even more intimidating, carrying the aura of the great Tao. Whoosh! The cauldron turned into a woman, even more attractive than before. She felt delighted as she saw Su Ping, who had been waiting. She quickly said, "Thank you for your help, boss." "How do you feel?" asked Su Ping. "Thanks to the treasures that you found for me, boss, all my damages from the past have been repaired. I'm even stronger than before after recovering the strength of my prime days. I can help you suppress some deity kings if you wish," said the cauldron woman confidently. "Your goal is to evolve into an emperor-level item. I can suppress a deity king with one hand. I don't need you," said Su Ping. The cauldron woman stuck out her tongue as she remembered Yi Chen, who had been dismembered by Su Ping. He was indeed too strong to need her help. She said obediently, "Of course, boss. I'll take you somewhere else later. I hope that you can truly evolve there," said Su Ping. "What place?" The cauldron woman was curious. She would enter the emperor level once she evolved and would surely become stronger than Su Ping. She wondered why Su Ping wasn't worried about that. In any case, she could tell that Su Ping was completely unlike Yi Chen. He wasn't really a skeptical man. Rather, she saw him as a man who could be trusted and relied upon. However, Su Ping was definitely not gullible either, as he had tricked her and the worldly emperor-level sutra, having them enter his store and suppressing them with the store's power. She saw that Su Ping carried a special quality that was both reassuring and trustworthy. It was probably the real charisma of a leader. Archean divinity. The two words uttered by Su Ping hammered the hearts of Chevalier and his companions, who looked at Su Ping and the cauldron woman with envious eyes. "Well, Brother Su, can we go with you?" Chevalier couldn't help but ask. Su Ping glanced at them and said, "As Anna has already told you, you must become my employees and sign contracts with me if you want to go. However, there's no need to ask again if you're unwilling to entrust your lives to me." The four of them looked at each other in bewilderment, hesitating. They had cultivated arduously for years on end. They would be downright stupid if they handed their lives over to Su Ping. Was it worth it, just for a chance to visit their hometown? Besides, it was unknown whether or not they could actually see it. Ignoring their hesitation, Su Ping said, "Although I can't take you there directly, don't worry. I'll contact the supreme experts of the Archean divinity once I get there. You'll be able to return soon if any of them are willing to help." Their eyes lit up. While holding back his excitement, Chevalier said solemnly, "Thank you very much, Brother Su. We're eternally in your debt." "I'm just returning the favor. No need to thank me," said Su Ping. He bade them farewell, then returned to his store with the cauldron woman and the sutra old man. It had only been half a day since he left the store, but it was already closed. Green Lady, Tang Ruyan and the others were all there. Although Tang Ruyan had never signed a contract and could go out freely, she had grown accustomed to staying inside the store. "Boss, your parents are here, and your sister too. They are all in the building next to the store," said Tang Ruyan in a hurry after seeing Su Ping return. Feeling relieved by the news, Su Ping extended his senses and soon saw his parents and Su Lingyu in the building next to his store. It had been a long time since he last saw them, but his parents didn't look too old. As a matter of fact, no more than 10 years had passed since he entered the Interstellar Federation. Although his parents weren't battle pet warriors, they had spiritual fruits as nourishment. It was easy for them to live 10,000 years. Su Ping noticed that Su Lingyu had already reached the star state. Her vitality aura was more than 50 years old. It was clear that she had been cultivating in a place with accelerated time. She was definitely a genius. To have reached the star state at the age of 50 after emerging from a planet as underdeveloped as the blue planet. She has indeed accomplished something. Su Lingyu gave him a slight nod. Even though the star state was no different from an ant in his eyes, It was already quite remarkable for ordinary people, such as Su Lingyu. Dad, Mom. Su Ping simply spoke telepathically and projected himself into their heads. Pinger, a reunion after a long time. His parents were discussing the news when they suddenly heard Su Ping's voice. They felt dazed by the sudden contact. Stupor gave way to excitement when they saw Su Ping in their heads. I don't have much time right now. Let's catch up later. In case of danger, seek refuge in the store immediately, said Su Ping. His parents had heard of his feats and knew he was a celebrity throughout the universe right now. They didn't know much about celebrities, except that such characters would be subject to swarms of people. They both nodded. Tears flowed out of his mother's eyes, but she quickly wiped them off. Su Ping heaved a sigh. Although he could easily slay celestial experts now, he didn't even have the time to accompany his family. No one could prevent him from accompanying them at that moment, but there was a risk of not handling the catastrophe on time and not being able to do anything about it. Chapter 1285, Closing of the Crack 2. Only when a man reached middle age would he know that spending time with his family and working hard were complete opposites. Kiddo, our parents are yours to take care of. Try your best to cultivate. Whatever resource you need, just ask Shen Huang, my master. He'll accept your requests as long as they're not too outrageous, said Su Ping telepathically to Su Lingyu, who was cultivating in her pajamas at the moment. She suddenly opened her eyes, as if waking up from a dream, then looked around but didn't see his brother. However, the familiar voice still shocked her. Where are you? I'm in my store. You. Su Lingyu recovered from the surprise and bit her lip. You must be careful. I've already asked your master about you. Don't handle all the dangerous missions on your own. This is the universe, not the blue planet we used to live on. Everyone is responsible to act when it comes to a universal disaster. Don't push yourself too hard. I won't, said Su Ping. There were ripples of surprise in his tranquil heart. Su Lingyu seemed to have changed a lot since they last met. She was less arrogant and stubborn and became more mature and considerate. She gnashed her teeth upon hearing Su Ping's calm voice. She had pictured their reunion lots of times, expecting for both to either be thrilled, to be jabbing at each other immediately, or to share a warm hug. Never did she think he would be that calm. The situation didn't sadden her, though. She only felt sorry for him instead. How many things did he go through to become so calm and poised? Once he was done talking to Su Lingyu, Su Ping extended his senses to another place on the street. There, on the second floor, there was a powerful aura that belonged to Kai Huo. Any updates from the Mayhem Star Zone? Su Ping instantly asked. The exploration teams that your master sent out have gathered some intel and live pictures. The crack in the universe has already closed, but there's still a slight opening. Both the ancient corpse and the creature beyond are gone. The entire Mayhem Star Zone was deformed, and laws have been completely rewritten. It's a forbidden area devoid of life right now. Kai Huo added in a hurry, right now, there are still several exploration teams working with machinery. Based on their findings, it seems that the ancient corpse entered the crack. Taking a long time to overcome his surprise, Su Ping asked, does it mean that both the ancient corpse and the creature are outside the crack in the universe right now? That is correct. Kai Huo continued, his concern evident. I wonder if their battle is over. Something big is bound to happen if the foreign creature wins, as it first attempted to break into our universe. It'll be too strong for anyone in our universe to counter. Su Ping became grim. He was aware of that possibility. After all, that was an existence in a realm beyond the celestial state. Even someone as powerful as himself wasn't confident of beating such an existence. I'm not strong enough. I'm still too weak. Su Ping secretly clenched his fists. He then said to Kai Huo telepathically, leave a message with my employees if any urgent information comes in. I'll be notified the moment I return. All right, Kai Huo accepted the task. Su Ping withdrew his senses and immediately picked another batch of pets for the professional training package. This time, he picked the Archean divinity. I'm probably still wanted by the Rain clan. I wonder how long I can fight against a god emperor with my current power. He had never fought one of those overlords before. He had indeed met some in the past, but he was never able to understand their power. He couldn't even understand the nature of their attacks. That was why it was impossible for him to figure out the gap between them. Whoosh! The teleportation portal disappeared. Su Ping then saw the dim and vast sky, where dark gold clouds were embedded like scales. The land was flat and lush with giant trees and grass, where gargantuan beasts were lurking. This is. The Sutra old man and the cauldron woman tagged along. They looked around in shock. The intense divine power and the overwhelming great laws in the air shocked them. It was definitely a whole new world, nothing like the demigod burial they visited recently. This is the Archean divinity, said Su Ping. He took out his Heaven Path Institute badge, only to find that it wasn't shining. This meant that he wasn't on the same continent and couldn't use the badge's teleportation feature. The Archean divinity. Both the old man and the cauldron woman were shocked. Does the world we've only heard about in ancient tales still exist? Wasn't the Archean divinity destroyed? Asked the flabbergasted senior. Su Ping replied, it seems to have been reformed at one time. The Sutra old man was thus enlightened. Exactly at that moment Su Ping raised his eyebrows and looked at a certain place in the void. There a vortex opened, and a shiny golden spear swooshed out like a lightning bolt, shooting out from the deep spaces. Su Ping quickly moved and dodged the spear. There was a boom, the earth trembled, and a pit with a radius of hundreds of kilometers appeared. Both artifacts changed their expressions upon witnessing such a terrifying strike. They looked into the vortex, only to see a man wearing shiny golden armor and a crown. Su Ping was quick to recognize that he was part of the Rain clan by looking at the patterns on the man's attire. He narrowed his eyes with overflowing coldness. It's been such a long time. It couldn't have been easy for you to find me, right? The divine light was gone, revealing a brawny middle-aged general whose aura, although suppressed, was still intimidating, like an ocean floating in midair. He looked down at Su Ping and waved his hands, locking the area within hundreds of kilometers with golden light, which was a secret Rain clan technique. Brat, you're bold enough to show your face. I thought you would choose to hide in humanity's ancestral land until you died of old age, said the indifferent and emotionless middle-aged man. Emperor level. The Sutra old man narrowed his eyes in shock. The cauldron woman also noticed the power, surpassing everything. There was shock in her eyes. She seemed to be both scared and thrilled, as if something was boiling in her blood due to the stimulation. Why wouldn't I dare to show up? Because I'm too scared of you, said Su Ping coldly while sneering. Why didn't you send a prince of yours? Aren't you a high-ranked clan? Your princes must be unparalleled. Bring a few more over. I didn't have enough fun killing them last time. The old man and the cauldron woman's eyes almost popped out. They finally understood what Su Ping did. No wonder an emperor-level expert had attacked right from the get-go. Su Ping had killed one of their princes. This is bad. The Sutra old man cried in his heart. He had been planning to say a few nice words and apologize on Su Ping's behalf, even though he had done nothing wrong. But how could they forgive him after killing one of their princes? Boss, why don't we retreat for now? The cauldron woman was about to faint when she saw how proud and stubborn Su Ping was acting. That's an emperor-level god. Why is Su Ping being this reckless? Humph, your weapons are shaking in their boots. The middle-aged fellow didn't know what the cauldron woman had said to Su Ping, but he could tell that she was originally a high-level weapon. Her actions gave him great satisfaction. It was true that the humans had attached great importance to that genius, even giving him 2 decent weapons. You would be shaking too if I were at your level, said Su Ping while staring at him coldly. The proud god chuckled. I know you're extremely gifted, but don't overestimate yourself. Do you think anyone at my level was any less remarkable than you when we were your age? Stupid human, you're still ignorant while facing death. You will never grow to reach my level. The ground trembled as he spoke, and a stream of light flew back to his hand like lightning. It was none other than the golden spear he had hurled in the beginning. I was hoping that I could experience a God Emperor's power. You've come at the right time. Su Ping coldly summoned the young chaos beast and merged with it. Meanwhile, he also summoned the Inferno Dragon and the Dark Dragon Hound, who would probably benefit from witnessing their fight. Chapter 1286, Explosion of the Universe 1. Experience. The middle-aged man's eyes were filled with disdain. You'll immediately fall into chaos. You'd be dead already if it weren't for the fact that you must pay for your crimes. Not another word was said afterwards, seemingly having lost interest in talking to Su Ping. He simply raised a hand in Su Ping's direction and clenched it. With a boom, the void shook and a mountainous power came from all directions, squeezing Su Ping's body as if ready to crush it. Su Ping's eyes turned into the eyes of chaos. The world became primitive and ancient in his view. There was nothing but the most fundamental lines of laws and paths in the void. He saw the Tao glyphs in his enemy's hands. Two brilliant Tao glyphs split up into countless lines and surrounded him. Is this the best you've got? Who do you think you're dealing with? Su Ping's eyes were cold. He snapped his fingers and shot out condensed sword auras, which ripped the nearby paths to pieces as he darted towards the enemy. The senior god was clearly astonished. He could tell that Su Ping's level was so low that he could kill him hundreds of times with a breath. And yet, Su Ping was able to fend his attack and counter. You know Tao glyphs. You also carry the aura of the ancient Chaos clan. You're indeed unusual. The middle-aged man soon calmed down. Sword auras flew straight at him, but weirdly enough, they kept flying without being able to approach him. There seemed to be an infinite distance between them. Divine restriction. Ignoring the sword auras, the middle-aged man raised his hand again, and a brilliant Tao glyph burst out of each of his fingers. They mixed and formed a secret technique, more powerful than the combination of each individual Tao glyph. A powerful golden cage instantly emerged in the void and wreathed Su Ping, gradually shrinking. An enormous pressure was imposed on Su Ping as the cage was reduced. A normal ascendant would have exploded under such pressure, but Su Ping remained impassive. When the cage shrank from thousands of meters long to dozens of meters, the pressure was too terrifying, even for celestials. Su Ping's body made cracking sounds too, but his expression never changed, as if it were someone else's body being caged. The middle-aged man appeared to be shocked. Su Ping's performance had exceeded his expectations yet again. No wonder he killed a prince so easily. The genius on the chaos rank does possess an extraordinary power. Is this the best you've got? This is your second attack. Su Ping's voice was exceptionally calm, like the freezing December wind. When the cage was reduced to 10 meters long, a scary round-like illusion appeared behind his back. It was none other than the universe of chaos. There was a boom, and the cage was instantly broken. Golden glass pieces splashed out, creating the most splendid view. Su Ping raised his head and gazed at his enemy in the calmest manner. You! The middle-aged man was stunned, especially so after seeing the illusion behind Su Ping. It was undoubtedly a small universe. However, the young man Ping was definitely not at the level where he could condense one. Still, it was right before his eyes. It was beyond his understanding. There was a breeze in the void and a silence. The senior god recovered after a brief daze. His expression changed, and his fury was ignited by Su Ping's mocking eyes. Be that as it may, your myth will come to an end today. Let me see what other secrets you have. He became serious this time. Golden light burst out of his body, and the void behind his back appeared to be melting, becoming a golden ocean. He crossed his hands in a weird gesture before he roared, heaven imprisoning technique. There was a humming sound and the void shook. Ancient whispers came from deep spaces, like some sort of Buddha chanting. After that, a glowing hand was extended from the void and grabbed Su Ping from downwards. The latter was shocked. He was separated from the world before his eyes. He seemed to have been caught in darkness the moment the hand appeared. There was only a golden hand in view. He knew he had been isolated in another time and space. That powerful sealing technique could block all his senses. Su Ping suddenly roared, nature's law is to never stop striving. Break now. His universe of chaos burst out at that moment, rising from within his body like a brilliant sun, releasing a torrent of chaos aura which was swept like tides as it drove away the darkness. While focused on the golden light, Su Ping gathered all his strength and threw the universe of chaos downwards towards the hand. Boom! The universe and the hand crashed like a meteor hitting a mountain. The resulting explosion was deafening. Su Ping felt that both his soul and body had been hit by a warship weighing 100,000 tons. He trembled as his head went blank for a moment. He soon recovered, though, then experienced excruciating pain. He turned around and saw a crack on his universe of chaos. As for the golden hand underneath the universe, it had already been repelled, leaving a hole in the palm. What? The middle-aged man was shocked. He fearfully looked at Su Ping. He broke free from the heaven imprisoning technique. Chapter 1287, Explosion of the Universe 2. Also, what kind of universe was that? Although living creatures had yet to populate it, he could tell that Su Ping's universe was terrifying. Its density was greater than that of any universe he had ever seen. Not even his own universe could compare. It looks like the combination of many universes. His universe is made of multiple small worlds, but it's more powerful than the normal multiple small worlds. The middle-aged man had once cultivated 5 small worlds, while his universe was their fusion, which made him far stronger than creatures of his level. After all, those beasts didn't know how to cultivate multiple small worlds. That was the reason why gods could easily suppress their peers and enslave other races. However, the universe of chaos displayed by Su Ping was much more terrifying. Could it be that he attained 7 small worlds? That's impossible. Only ancestral gods have achieved such a thing. The middle-aged man was too shocked to act. Su Ping withdrew his universe of chaos and repaired it with the power inside his body. He then looked at his enemy and said, "That was your 3rd attack." The senior god sobered up with that taunt, appalling light flashing in his eyes. "That's right, but you won't survive a 4th. I will not let someone like you return to the human clan alive. I will use your body to make a puppet. It will affect your potential, but I look forward to what you might become." He laughed aloud and charged at Su Ping with his spear. The latter spoke coldly to the cauldron woman and the old man. "Let's attack together." Huh. Both of them were quite shocked, never expecting that their boss could withstand 3 attacks from an emperor-level existence, or that he would ask them to die with him. Yes, they took his request as a death wish. Su Ping was indeed an unbelievable fellow, but they could tell that the enemy had yet to become serious. After all, the young man was barely an ascendant, a major level apart from his enemy. It was already unbelievable that he could deal with celestials, but it would be impossible for him to resist an emperor-level being. They soon snapped back after the initial hesitation, hopping to retreat. Retreat! There was no retreat now. With everything coming to that point, their only chance to survive was to fight alongside Su Ping. They cried in their hearts, but they still followed their boss and charged. Heaven melting technique. The cauldron woman transformed into an enormous cauldron spitting out flames. It also was producing attraction force as it tried to absorb the god emperor. The old man transformed too, becoming an ancient and ragged book laden with old deity scripts. It floated in the sky and tried to envelop the enemy. Humph! The middle-aged man sneered and suddenly stabbed forth with his spear, aiming to tear the sutra apart to then smash the cauldron. Boom! The cauldron was smashed into the ground, causing a massive pit. Cracks were formed on the artifact's surface. The unstoppable god emperor roared and charged at Su Ping with his spear. Su Ping felt the enormous power condensed on the spear. Aside from Tao glyphs, there was another power similar to a celestial small universe's power. Still, there were slight differences. It seemed to be more concentrated. Is that the power of god emperors? Su Ping's eyes were shining. He unleashed the universe of chaos and rose to the sky. After a boom, His universe of chaos turned into a giant sword and slashed out. The universe was humming, and Su Ping was also shaking. A dark space that could swallow everything was caused by the friction. How sturdy! The God Emperor was also shocked. His eyes were glittering. It was horrifying to find that Su Ping's universe could withstand one of his attacks. He swung his spear in rapid succession, launching countless shadows that fell like a meteor shower in the sky. The universe-made sword slashed at a fast speed. Su Ping shook every time it clashed with the spear shadow, as the impact was directly imposed on his body and soul. His body would have already collapsed under the pressure if it weren't hard enough. The cracks in his small universe grew in number. "Is this your real power?" Su Ping roared furiously, knowing he was reaching his limits. He didn't expect to defeat that God Emperor. He only wanted to gauge his real power. The two of them moved to put some distance between each other. The God Emperor stood proudly in the sky while holding his spear. There was no more disdain in his eyes, only solemnity. Su Ping's universe was beyond his imagination. The horror of that human's existence became increasingly clear to him during those clashes. If the young man ever reached his level, he knew he would be no match for him. That was unacceptable and intolerable for a high-ranked god such as himself. "You are indeed a rare genius with the potential of an ancestral god," said the God Emperor with cold and indifferent eyes. "Unfortunately, you stand out too much, completely ignoring the importance of keeping a low profile. Since you yearn to witness my power, I shall grant your wish. It is but a small gift for your passing." Although he hated to admit it, the man found Su Ping a little bit admirable. That's right. Even though he looked down on other races, a genius such as Su Ping would never be restricted by any race. He would truly become the hope of humankind's rise if he grew up. After such a claim, Su Ping also concealed his aura and concentrated all his strength. He then stared at his enemy and said, "Bring it on. Let me show you the real power of an emperor. This is my universe." Once he said that, a purple universe rose gradually behind his back, like a strange purple moon. It was elegant, mysterious, and extremely powerful, which caused continuous energy tides in the void. Su Ping narrowed his eyes and stared at the purple universe. He could see a lot of embedded Tao glyphs. Furthermore, there seemed to be tracks inside the universe. They seemed to be carrying power and sending it to the core. "Is that a God Emperor's universe? It is indeed a bit different from mine." Su Ping's eyes glittered. He could tell that something was somehow hidden in that universe. Aside from that, the power inside that universe was extremely condensed. It wasn't as dispersed as in his universe of chaos. The God Emperor raised his spear while Su Ping examined his purple universe, which instantly flew towards the tip of the spear. His face was illuminated by purple light, making him look dignified and powerful. "Spiritual bird, 100 chirps." A wave of sharp bird calls resounded. A purple divine bird flew out of the universe and shrieked, wings unfolding. The entire purple universe fell as he swung the spear. The bird swooped down along with the purple universe, carrying an unparalleled pressure. Su Ping instantly felt that his body was frozen. The pressure he was experiencing was almost suffocating. His blood flowed in reverse and he roared, unleashing all his power with God's arrival. He pushed the universe of chaos forward. The cracked universe of chaos turned into a streak of light and moved to smash the bird. However, the creature was agile enough to dodge right before they came close. The purple universe following right behind split open and swallowed Su Ping's universe of chaos like a huge mouth. Then the bird approached and simply drowned Su Ping with its power. Su Ping then had the sensation that something had invaded his head. Narrowing his eyes, he knew the guy was trying to capture him alive. He hurriedly detonated the universe of chaos. Bang! A dull explosion was spread out of the purple universe. The impact was so massive that even the shrieks inside Su Ping's head were gone. The god warrior in the sky was dazed, not expecting Su Ping's ruthless move to destroy the universe he had arduously cultivated. "So stupid," he couldn't help but whisper. Fury appeared in his cold eyes. He suddenly stabbed toward the place in the void where Su Ping was, blowing the area into smithereens. The Inferno Dragon and the others that had been observing the battle in the void were shattered to pieces by the spear attack. They were utterly unable to escape. Chapter 1288. Return to the Heavenly Path Institute 1. He blew up his universe and destroyed his potential. What a shame. There's no research value left, mumbled the senior god as he looked at the shattered space and examined the surroundings. He didn't find any aura of vitality, thus confirming that the boy had been obliterated without a chance to resurrect. Let this time and space be your grave. You were an unparalleled genius and deserve a proper burial. The god warrior waved a hand, and the dozens of square kilometers where Su Ping was caged collapsed, turning into a land of darkness and silence. The place would become a forbidden area in the years to come. All incoming substances would be destroyed. That would continue until another god warrior decided to take action and cleaned up the place. Once the deed was done, the god emperor turned around and disappeared into the void. Back in the Rain Clan territory, on the highest peak. "You're back," said the Rain Emperor as he looked at the middle-aged man returning. The middle-aged man said calmly, "He was indeed an unparalleled genius. It's a shame he wasn't one of us. He blew up his small universe. I already killed him. I wanted to capture him alive but couldn't." His small universe. Dazed, the Rain Emperor asked, "Has he reached the God King level?" Although God Kings were nothing in his eyes, they were actually powerhouses in the vast Archean divinity that human was cultivating in the Heaven Path Institute a while back. How long did it take for him to become a God King? Nope. The middle-aged man shook his head with regret in his eyes. Even though he had been determined to go for the kill, he actually felt sorry after the fact. He said, "He wasn't a God King, but he was stronger than normal God Kings. If he were, I probably would have had to use my real strength to finish him off." He condensed a small universe before he became a God King. The Rain Emperor couldn't understand, but he knew his cousin wasn't a liar. He fell silent. At that moment, a golden-armored figure dashed over and knelt in the void. "Report. What is it?" asked the Rain Emperor, frowning because of the interruption. The golden-armored soldier quickly replied, "Elder Yuan asked me to report that the young human that Emperor Kue just killed was revived on the East Continent." "What?" The Rain Emperor was stunned. The middle-aged man's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" He couldn't believe the news. Then he wondered if Elder Yuan was going senile and made a mistake. He had already confirmed the guy's death. How could the guy reappear on the East Continent? It was a really distant place. Unless he was a god emperor who could break the walls of space in the Archean divinity, it would be impossible for him to teleport to another continent, let alone if he truly were a god king. The overlord recovered from the shock and looked at the middle-aged man. The latter furrowed his eyebrows and said, "I'm sure I killed him. This situation is uncanny. Did I only kill his clone? Impossible. Did Elder Yuan really find him? I need to speak to him in person." The Rain Emperor didn't think he was lying. No god emperor would lie about such a trivial matter. He nodded and said, "There might be other reasons. I'll go with you." The middle-aged man couldn't help but look at the other, not expecting him to pay so much attention to a human junior. It was crazy enough to deploy an emperor. "Okay." While they went to talk to Elder Yuan in a forest on the East Continent. Su Ping's figure was reconstituted in that place. He looked around and was glad not to see the middle-aged man. So he went about resurrecting the young chaos beast, the Inferno Dragon and his other pets. The Cauldron Woman and the Sutra Old Man, both shattered, were recreated by Su Ping. 2. Having acknowledged him as master, they belonged to him and were protected by the rules of resurrection. That was why he had dared to take them there. "Weren't we dead?" The Cauldron Woman touched herself and was shocked to find herself complete. The Sutra Old Man was also shocked, as he had clearly sensed how he was ripped apart, but somehow he had been fixed. "Is my memory just an illusion?" Su Ping didn't explain. He simply threw them into the storage space and also retrieved his pets. Then he took out the badge, only to find that it wasn't glittering. He could only unleash the universe of chaos and detonate it again to blow himself up. Let's see what the deep spaces of the Archean divinity look like, thought Su Ping, since he became curious while in the process of exploding. He unleashed the power of his self-explosion toward the deep spaces of the Archean divinity. The deep spaces were torn open. He somehow felt that he reached the limit when the explosion reached the seventh layer. The deep spaces of the Archean divinity are clearly harder than those in my world. Also, there doesn't seem to be any danger here, only greater pressure. After his consciousness disappeared, Su Ping went for a random resurrection again. This time, he reappeared in the high sky. He looked around but didn't see any signs of life. He immediately took out the badge and found that it had a hazy silver light. Have I finally arrived? Su Ping felt delighted. He injected divine power into the badge to activate it. A space portal appeared soon after, and Su Ping simply stepped in. Chapter 1289. Return to the Heavenly Path Institute 2. Elsewhere, in an important place of the Rain clan. He's gone again. An old man, whose white hair almost filled up the entire room like a spider's, web-widened his eyes to such an extent that even the wrinkles on his face were flattened. He said in utmost shock, "How did he do it?" The Rain Emperor and Emperor Que looked at him with a mix of shock and suspicion. They knew that Elder Yuan would never make any mistakes. It seemed to be an unprecedented situation. Did the ancestral god of the Heaven Path Institute take action? The Rain Emperor narrowed his eyes solemnly. He was last seen in the territory of the Heaven Path Institute according to our information. Emperor Que's eyes were glittering. If the Heaven Path Institute's ancestral god was involved, he must have witnessed the battle between him and Su Ping, and yet he didn't feel anything. Is that the power of an ancestral god? He looked forward to advancing even more. In the Heaven Path Institute, the void was split open, and Su Ping walked out to stand before the gates of the Heaven Path Institute. A lot of students wearing the school uniform were passing by. He experienced a strange sense of familiarity. He smiled and went to the temple where he lived and cultivated. "Huh, who's that junior brother?" "Hush, don't talk nonsense. His level is higher than yours. What junior brother? You should call him senior brother." "Why is he flying? Does he not know that all airspace movement has been forbidden because Master Zong and senior sister Tan are teaching today?" Many students noticed Su Ping, who was flying at the moment. They were surprised and unhappy. Some were even gloating as they waited for the likely outcome. "Stop!" Soon after Su Ping flew toward his temple, a team of people wearing silver uniforms intercepted him. "Which academy are you from? What's your name? Don't you know that flying is forbidden today?" A silver-armored young man looked at Su Ping angrily. He didn't bother being polite, even though he noticed how Su Ping's aura was different from that of ordinary students. After all, no one without a powerful background could become a law enforcer in the Heaven Path Institute. "There's an airspace ban." Su Ping was stunned. "Why?" "Why? Because Elder Zong is teaching today. Descend and report your name. The punishment won't be severe if you're a first offender, but if you've done this before, humph." "Huh." Su Ping didn't expect to run into such trouble the moment he got back. However, he liked the Heaven Path Institute. After all, the Institute had once stepped in on his behalf, at the cost of offending the Rain clan. "Fine." Su Ping landed obediently and reported his name when they asked again. "Su Ping, let me see your badge, I have to confirm." Su Ping instantly handed over his token. "Huh." The silver-armored enforcer checked the badge, only to discover that it was locked. He tried to open it, but he was informed that he didn't have authorization to read the target's information. "What's going on?" The young man was shocked and suspicious. He gazed at Su Ping, wondering why his clearance wasn't good enough. Except for mentors in the institute, only the honorable or the special students had higher permissions than him. Such individuals either had powerful backgrounds or an extraordinary talent. Noticing that the guy was staring at him, Su Ping asked gently, Is everything in order? The young enforcer snapped out of his pondering and changed his attitude. Sorry for wasting your time. He then quickly led his squad away. Huh? Su Ping was puzzled but didn't give it much thought as he saw them leave. Since flying was impossible, he was forced to walk back. He passed a square as he made his way toward the temple, where he saw that a lot of students gathered. There was an old man seated in the void with Tao patterns surging out. He was giving a lecture. Su Ping observed further and found that the old man was probably also a god emperor. The pressure he sensed made him close his pores and instinctively become vigilant. There are indeed a lot of powerful people in the Heaven Path Institute. No wonder they're not afraid of a high-ranked clan, Su Ping thought. He stood at the edge of the crowd and listened quietly. The man's interpretation was rather easy to follow. He parsed a Tao glyph into 108 Tao patterns and explained them one by one. This is too detailed. He can probably only cover 4 to 5 Tao patterns in a day. I'd have to listen for an entire month if I want to learn the entire Tao glyph. Su Ping had already grasped the Tao pattern being taught by the senior. He saw how the guy droned away and felt a little bit bored. He then looked around, only to discover that the other listeners were all devoted and fascinated. A long time passed. The old man stopped after finishing 3 Tao patterns and handed over the stage to a girl. It's Senior Sister Tan. Senior Sister Tan is a true role model of the Heaven Path Institute. It's said that she's already stronger than normal mentors after barely spending 50 years of studies here. She condensed 4 small worlds. You don't say. Senior Sister Tan is even on the Chaos Talents rank. Senior Sister Tan is so awesome. She's explaining Tao patterns along with Elder Zong. I couldn't even understand, but Senior Sister Tan is able to teach us. The differences between us are too many to count. While everybody whispered, the girl in midair raised her hand and pressed it down with a solemn attitude. All the students fell quiet. The girl instantly sat down. She went over the 3 Tao patterns taught by Elder Zong with examples and her own understanding, so that it would be easier for the students to follow. Su Ping felt a headache when he heard her talk about the same topics. He had already found the previous old man boring with his roundabout explanations, and now that young girl turned out to be just as uninteresting. Time to go. Su Ping shook his head. Not wishing to stay any longer, he simply went up the mountain, taking the stairs near the square. Huh? The young lecturer noticed from the corner of her eye how a man left the crowd. She couldn't help but narrow her eyes. That kind of lecture didn't happen every day. It was a benefit and an opportunity for all students. The usual would be for many students to gather for such lectures. How come this guy left when I'm interpreting Elder Zong's teachings? Am I a terrible lecturer? Being a top genius, she wouldn't question herself that easily. The situation simply made her unhappy. She thought that her understanding was great and anybody with the slightest wisdom could grasp it in time if they followed her methodology. The guy had probably left because he didn't understand or because he was too lazy. A mere human being, humph. The girl withdrew her gaze and no longer bothered to think about him. Su Ping walked all the way back to his temple. The bored maid was sitting outside the temple. Her eyes widened when she saw him return. Why, you're back? Yes. Considering how shocked she was, Su Ping touched his own face and asked, does being handsome mean something else too? Gods. Huh? The maid felt lost, as she clearly didn't understand what Su Ping meant. She snapped back 2 seconds later and said, everyone said that the Rain clan killed you to avenge their prince. How did you come back? On foot, Su Ping said. Did the word spread this far? Even you heard the news. It's all over the institute. The maid suddenly thought of something and said, right, the elders said that you should go to the elders' hall immediately if you come back. Wait, they asked me to hand you a message as soon as possible. In a flurry of movement, she found her badge and quickly activated it. She quickly sent a message in godly language. Dazed for a moment, Su Ping asked, why? I don't know. The maid stored the badge and looked at Su Ping up and down as if he were an exotic creature. Su Ping felt rather helpless under her gaze. He said, "Have you never seen a human being, or have you never seen one as handsome as me?" The maid felt amused and chuckled for a bit, but soon her smile was gone. She explained, "The big shots in the Institute said that you made it to the Chaos Talents rank. I just wanted to find out what a figure as talented as Senior Sister Tan is like." Chapter 1290, Competition for Tao Child 1. "Now you've seen me, is there anything different?" asked an amused Su Ping. The maid turned her head and thought carefully. She said, "Both of you have something special. As in, we both look especially good." "You look good." Dazed for a moment, the maid shook her head and said, "It's a very special feeling, as if you're naturally melded into the environment. You're very peaceful." "Well," Su Ping was suddenly of a mind to show his ferocity, so that the innocent maid wouldn't think that people could make it into the Chaos Talents rank without ruthlessly going through life and death. Whoosh! Exactly at that moment, Su Ping suddenly raised his head and looked at the void. A crack appeared, and a white-robed old man walked out. He seemed to be quite amiable. There was astonishment in his eyes when he laid eyes on Su Ping. As expected of the most talented student of the Institute in the past 10,000 years, this man was indeed extraordinary. Even he felt a little bit of pressure from Su Ping. "You're the human Su Ping, right?" the old man asked with a smile. "And you are." Su Ping noticed the old man's celestial realm and knew he was very likely one of the mentors or someone important. "He's the elder of an academy," explained the maid in a hurry, while also bowing to the old man. "I didn't think you could escape safely from the Rain Clan territory. Master asked me to pick you up. He has something for you. Please follow me," said the white-robed old man courteously. Su Ping narrowed his eyes. A celestial expert's master. Could it be the God Emperor of the Heavenly Path State? He nodded, "All right. It's the elder." The maid was quite shocked after finding out the man's identity, and that he would fetch Su Ping the moment he returned. Elders were supreme in the Institute. It was difficult for students to meet them, except for the talented ones such as her senior sister Tan. Led by the old man, Su Ping tore the void open and flew deep into the Institute's grounds, a zone where students couldn't enter. There were amazing temples floating in the void, protected by barriers while staying independent from the rest of the world. Although visible to the naked eye, the time flow and energy in those buildings were different. The old man led Su Ping into a place named Toadfish Palace. Many guards were protecting the place. All of them were ascendants. In addition, there was a black monument outside the palace, while dozens of ascendant and celestial experts were sitting cross-legged in front of it, observing intently. "That's the Unifying Heaven Monument. Master obtained it from a behemoth he killed in the past. It contains natural Tao glyphs," explained the white-robed old man kindly. Su Ping was looking from a distance, and still he felt as if about to sink into the black monument. It had a shocking effect. The monument was indeed unusual. Soon after they reached the front of the palace, the old man bowed and said, "Master, I've brought him here." "All right, you may leave." A young and clear voice came from inside. He didn't sound old or weary in the slightest. Rather, he seemed to be full of vigor, like an energetic young man. "Yes, sir." The white-robed old man nodded respectfully. He then nodded at Su Ping with a smile and left. "Please come in," said another voice coming from within. Su Ping simply pushed the door and walked in. Then he saw that the building's inner space was quite special, as it seemed to contain a complex array of multiple spaces superimposed in the same spot. In front of a palace, it wasn't a throne, but a cushion where a young man was casually cross-legged with an ancient book in hand. His hair was unkempt, and some of it was dangling on the sides of his cheeks, making him seem lazy and carefree. "It's an honor to meet you, elder." Su Ping knew that he was indeed a god emperor by the aura he sensed. The young man raised his head and observed Su Ping for a moment. Surprise became gradually more evident on his face. He couldn't help but ask, "What's your current level?" Su Ping replied obediently, "I'm probably a major god now." "You've just become a major god." Light burst out of the young man's eyes and the space between them disappeared. Su Ping found himself standing right in front of the young-looking powerhouse, who sized him up and said, "No wonder they say that you have ancestral god potential. They're not wrong. There seems to be a god-king's universe in your body. Is it just a prototype?" Su Ping shook his head. "I can fight against god-kings." Dazed for a moment, the young man burst into laughter. "Well said. You can fight god-kings, as expected of a student of our Heaven Path Institute. You can suppress most of the geniuses listed on the Chaos Talents rank with nothing but your boldness. No wonder the usually low-key human clan was willing to offend a high-ranked god clan for you. That is why so many gods are willing to make friends with humans now. Smart move." Stunned for a moment, Su Ping asked, "Elder, are humans facing a terrible situation right now?" "Not exactly." The young man chuckled. "Even though the Rain clan is of a high rank, humankind has become a middle-rank race in the world after so many years, and you're a vassal of a high-ranked clan. They can't declare war that easily. You did kill their prince, but you did so in the Heaven Path Institute and according to the rules. We can vouch for that. So they can't blame your people for it." Chapter 1291, Competition for Tao Child 2. Su Ping was relieved. "Thank you for your help." "No need to thank us." The young man shook his head. "You're a student of the Heaven Path Institute, and so was the prince of the Rain clan you killed. Besides him, there are other students that come from the Rain clan, and all of them hate you. However, justice and fairness are always ensured in this place. No street fights are allowed. We will not protect you if you kill a prince of the Rain clan while breaking the rules. Do you understand?" "Got it." Su Ping nodded. The young man seemed satisfied. "You are already qualified to graduate, considering the time of your enrollment and your current strength. We haven't really taught you much. You grew too fast. You may graduate any time you want, or you can choose to stay in the institute as a mentor." Su Ping shook his head. "I want to further my studies in the institute. There's still too much I haven't learned yet. I don't think I can teach anyone." "Too much modesty is just arrogance," the young man reminded him with a smile. "Working as a mentor is truly a waste of time for you. The institute plans to appoint you as a special student. After all, you being on the Chaos Talents rank qualifies you for such an identity. However, considering your current strength, the special student status is probably not enough. I intend to present you as a candidate to become the Tao Child." The Tao Child. Su Ping felt dazed. Such an identity was clearly superior to being a special student. Indeed, a Tao Child is like a prince in other clans, or according to human ways, a seed. The young man smiled. "They're the most outstanding students of the Heaven Path Institute who would receive all resources unconditionally. All elders are at the Tao children's disposal and would be obliged to answer questions and help the Tao children as long as they're not training in seclusion." Su Ping was stunned. That identity seemed to be unbelievably high. Wouldn't the Tao Child be the most favored in the Heaven Path Institute? All the elders, they were all God Emperors, and they would be at his service. "Don't be happy just yet. It's just a candidacy. It would be up to you whether you can pass. In my opinion, it shouldn't be a problem. After all, you said that you can fight God Kings. I hope you weren't bragging," said the young man with a smile. Su Ping scratched his head, while thinking that the elder was acting overly friendly. "I'll do my best," said Su Ping. He would naturally try his best to fight for such a status. It wasn't just for himself, but also for all humans in the Archean divinity. If he did become a Tao Child, he would probably receive the Institute's protection, and the human clan wouldn't have to worry for his safety anymore. As things stood, it was impossible for humans to fight the Rain clan just yet. There wasn't an ancestral god-level cultivator among humans yet. "All right, I'll inform the other elders soon. Just go back and wait for updates. A decision should be made in a day or so," said the young man. "Prepare yourself until then. The competition won't be easy." "Okay." Su Ping nodded and looked at him. He cupped his hands and said goodbye once he saw that the elder didn't have anything else to say. He left the temple, while finding the whole situation surreal. The guy was quite friendly and approachable, while the whole institute treated him warmly too. There's probably more than one ancestral god in the Heaven Path Institute. Otherwise, they wouldn't dare to offend the Rain clan so easily. Su Ping left the palace with glittering eyes. Kid. Back in the palace, the young man chuckled as he watched Su Ping leave. If you do become a Tao child, I'll be able to return that human being's favor. He wasn't a god, but a beast in the Archean divinity. He once received the help of a low-level human cultivator, although the man had already died many years before. Still, he always remembered the favor and treated humans in a friendly way. He volunteered to meet Su Ping because he wanted to see if that genius was truly capable of leading humankind to prosperity. Su Ping returned to the temple where he lived. He asked her maid about the Tao child's status. She became much more excited than him upon learning that he would compete for the title, and readily told him everything she knew. To Su Ping's surprise, there was not one, but 3 Tao children in the Heaven Path Institute. There were always 3 spots. Furthermore, the Tao children weren't fixed. A 4th person qualified for the position could elbow out one of the 3. However, such replacement rarely happened. After all, every Tao child received abundant resources. Being eclipsed despite all the privileges could only mean that their replacement was a much more talented genius. So this is how it goes. I have to compete with other candidates first and then beat a Tao child. Then I'll be awarded the identity. Su Ping was enlightened. He asked about the Tao children's combat ability. He was delighted to find out that, even though the maid didn't know much, she was certain that the Tao children weren't god emperors. That made sense. Any god emperor was a giant in the Archean divinity. They were rare even in high-ranked clans, and were unstoppable except to ancestral gods. Such existences would have no need for the Tao child status. If I become a Tao child, I'll be able to ask one of the elders to drag the demigod burial back to the Archean divinity so that they can return home, thought Su Ping, remembering Heather and the other superior gods. Half a day passed in the blink of an eye. Not a day had passed when Su Ping received notification that he was going to take the Tao children trial. So soon. Su Ping was shocked to see the white-robed old man who had fetched him before. Their efficiency exceeded his expectations. The old man sized him up, even more surprised. He learned from his master that the student he had met in the morning was going to compete for the Tao child position. The rules of the Heaven Path Institute were fair. The ones capable would go up. There were no racial discriminations. Whoever showed more talent and capability would receive appreciation and resources. Therefore, the Tao child competition was open all year around. Whoever felt up to par could issue a challenge. With an elder as his endorser, Su Ping had undoubtedly won the qualification as a challenger. The cute maid clenched her fists and cheered for him. Keep it up. Su Ping smiled and left with the white-robed old man. They didn't go to the Toad Fish Palace they had visited earlier. They instead went to an even more splendid castle. The place turned out to contain a universe where 3 suns were floating, which were actually 3 wondrous birds. Su Ping found them familiar and felt that something was wriggling in his blood. He narrowed his eyes, although the dazzling sunlight couldn't blind him. He saw that the 3 birds were golden. They looked like golden crows but weren't real. They carry golden crow auras. I wonder what birds they are. Su Ping's eyes glittered. The 2 of them reached the square in front of the palace, where 8 people of different genders, ages, and races were standing. Some had boar heads, while others had eagles' heads. The 8 turned to look at the new arrivals, showing varied expressions when noticed how Su Ping looked. A human being. Humph, this human wants to challenge a Tao child. Since when do humans think that one of them can aspire to become a Tao child of the Heaven Path Institute? Good thing that I'm here. He cannot possibly pass me. Some were angry. They seemed unhappy about Su Ping's challenge. Su Ping raised his eyebrows when he sensed their hostility, but then relaxed after gauging their levels. Luckily, none of them were too strong. They are all Tao child candidates, and they all belong to high-ranked clans. "Don't feel offended," said the white-robed old man telepathically with a friendly attitude. He knew his master had always favored humans, so he also extended goodwill to their race. Chapter 1292, Oceanic Universe of Clouds 1. Are there no middle-ranked clans? Su Ping was puzzled. The white-robed old man shook his head and said, "Yes, but not in this generation. It is extremely difficult for a Dao child to be born in a middle-ranked clan. For starters, middle-ranked clans don't have enough resources as the high-ranked clans do. Secondly, mid-tier clans' bloodline potential can't compare to that of the high-ranked. Lastly, high-ranked clans have ancestral gods, and all their members' bloodlines are constantly purified by them. That is why every clan with an ancestral god is a high-ranked clan. They can remain standing for eternity, unless something happens to their ancestral god." His voice gradually dropped as he spoke. It would be an obvious disrespect to talk about the death of an ancestral god. Su Ping was silent for a moment. Even though he considered himself a human being, he knew that he carried the bloodline of the primitive Chaos clan. What the man said was rather harsh, but also true. Bloodline potential and training resources were important reasons that limited the development of geniuses. Without resources, it was impossible to display a genius potential. There was a great difference in bloodline potential too, just like the strongest ant being completely unable to shake an elephant. Some were born with a golden spoon, while others worked for a lifetime and were still incapable of earning as much as what the privileged had from birth. The difference among humans was already massive enough, let alone among races. Su Ping then followed the old man and landed in the square. He remained expressionless while sensing a wave of hostility from all the people present. He ignored them and looked at the front of the square, where several people were walking out of a vortex, including the elder he had seen in the Toad Fish Palace earlier on. "He's the candidate you're recommending." The person standing at the center was a beautiful girl wearing silver earrings, all while displaying an alluring body figure. Her hair fluttered in the wind, and she seemed to be quite cold. On her left side was a short child who had an enormous head. He was quite the cute sight. Right then he let out a childish voice. "He does seem extraordinary. My shield ring is reacting." The young man smiled. "I think highly of him. He escaped from the Rain clan. Besides the protection granted by humankind, he is definitely very lucky. Luck is one of his capabilities." "I've heard a lot about him. He's indeed not bad," said a rather old-looking man while nodding and stroking his beard. A plump and attractive lady chuckled and said, "Let them get ready then. They have to beat the other candidates first." The other 8 candidates frowned after hearing their conversation. It was obvious that they didn't expect all 5 elders to think that highly of Su Ping on their first encounter. Is this human truly extraordinary? The 8 of them exchanged glances, then fixed their gazes upon a handsome young man wearing a golden robe. The young man snorted when everybody looked at him, but he didn't back off. Although angry with Su Ping, the elder's attitude made them cautious and nobody was willing to test him. So, he had to do it. After all, there was a history between him and that human upstart. "Let me be the first to try you, kid. I heard that you killed a prince of my clan. It's true that you didn't violate the rules of the Institute, but you were too reckless. You could have shown mercy so that others would be merciful to you. I won't go easy on you today. I'll give you some time to get ready." The golden-armored young man looked at Su Ping with cold eyes. Su Ping was dazed for a moment. He was both enlightened and surprised the moment he recognized the armor and the familiar emblem it had engraved. "You're from the Rain clan too. Even your prince was killed by me. Who are you? How did you become one of the candidates?" "What are you talking about?" The golden-armored young man was furious. His eyes were cold. "I'm the 182nd prince of the Rain clan. Mo Feng, the one you killed, was the 184th prince. He was nothing compared to me, though. This isn't a place where you can do anything you want. Better watch your mouth." "The 182nd prince." While stunned for a moment, Su Ping asked out of reflex, Are the princes of the Rain clan replaced so frequently? You! The golden-armored young man flew into a rage. The short child with a big head chuckled. Hee hee, whether or not you have grievances to settle, you still have to abide by the rules. Given your candidate status, you'd better save the trash talk for when you're fighting. Enter my oceanic universe of clouds now. After that, he waved a hand and emitted the extremely terrifying pressure of an emperor. A deep vortex opened up above the plaza, releasing an immeasurable and powerful aura. The other 7 candidates were silent. They glanced at Su Ping and simply entered the vortex. The golden-armored young man glared at Su Ping and also entered. Su Ping followed them closely. Let's go and see his performance. He doesn't seem to be a pure human being. His aura is ancient and strange. It's even purer than ours, said an old man while chuckling, anticipation showing in his eyes. His observation made him curious about Su Ping. Everybody else flew into the vortex too. The other end of the vortex turned out to be a vast universe. It was called the Oceanic Universe of Clouds, the universe that belonged to the child with a huge head. Chapter 1293, Oceanic Universe of Clouds 2. Everybody appeared somewhere in a space-like environment. They saw that the universe was filled with clouds, which turned out to be made of countless minuscule stars. Well, Su Ping was quite shocked at the sight. That universe was really similar to the primary universe outside. It even seemed to be the beginning of the primary universe. The clouds were like the rings of a star, forming many oceans. However, they seemed too dense in space. Furthermore, the tiny stars constituting the clouds were moving in trajectories and influencing force fields which were different from those outside. Su Ping closed his eyes and examined this carefully, only to find that, despite the similarities, that cosmos was actually different. If he had to put it in words, there were too many redundancies. Although the clouds are strongly cohesive, they're not interconnected, and they cannot function without an external impetus. It's unlike the galaxies in the primary universe where planets spin around stars naturally. Su Ping opened his eyes that were glittering. However, apart from the shortcomings, he sensed that the guy's universe was slightly different from his. That kind of difference was extremely amazing. There was a vigorous feel to that place. His own universe of chaos, on the other hand, was absolutely dead. It was his first time entering a God Emperor's universe. That was why the experience was quite deep. Su Ping realized something. My universe of chaos can create and accommodate lives too. I always thought that it was the same as the primary universe except for its smaller size. However, from the looks of it, it's still vastly different from the real thing. I never realized what the special features of the real universe were, which is why I kept thinking they were the same. At that moment, someone roared coldly, "What are you doing?" Su Ping came back to his senses. It was the golden-armored young man who yelled at him. The clouds in space dispersed just then, revealing a vast battlefield made of a pure white substance. It was indeed the place where candidates would fight it out. To Su Ping's surprise, outside of the battlefield was a misty auditorium already filled by students wearing the Heaven Path Institute uniform. There were also mentors among them. They discussed enthusiastically while seated in chairs made of clouds. Is he getting cold feet? Humph, he's a human being anyway, he's never gone through this. How can he not get nervous after seeing this many gods? Some of the other candidates were disdainful. Even if the elders thought highly of Su Ping, they believed in their own judgment. He's competing to be a Tao child. In the crowd, a gorgeous girl, who was so overly clothed that only her wrists and collarbones were revealed, was gazing at Su Ping. If memory didn't fail her, it was the young man who had left the lecture while she was explaining her master's class. Although she didn't consider it a big deal, the event was recent and the competition was unusual, so she was able to recall fairly quickly. Now that she thought of it, the guy had probably left not because he couldn't follow her, but because he was too bored. Tan Xingyun felt rather angry as she thought of it. "Guys, please enter the battlefield," the plump and mature lady said with a smile. The Tao Child competition is a major event in our institute. It's already been announced, and all disciples are allowed to watch. I hope that you'll show them a splendid battle so they can learn from it." The golden-armored young man nodded again. He coldly snorted at Su Ping and flew into the battlefield. "All right," Su Ping nodded and also entered the grounds. The excitement of the audience grew as they went in. The mentors merely showed cool smiles, but they were also quite thrilled in their hearts. Although mentors themselves, the candidates were much more capable than them. They could not compare in terms of combat ability. The candidates' mentors were mostly elders of the institute. Although the Tao children would have the privilege to ask for the elders' advice, the other candidates who were liked by some of them could also seek their help. It's been a long time since the last Tao Child competition. This is actually my first time seeing one. Am I allowed to cheer for them? I didn't think we would be this lucky. Do any of the informed seniors present know who the last two people were? You don't know them. The one on the right side used to be the prince of the Rain clan in the past. He rose and entered the Chaos Talents rank soon after he joined the Heaven Path Institute. Even if you haven't seen him before, you must have heard of the name Zhan Wuxuang, right? Senior Zhan Wuxuang, the one who killed 7 gods with one swing of his spear, exclaimed someone. The surrounding audience was reminded of that fact. Although very few of them knew what he looked like, such a feat was quite famous and remarkable. He killed 7 notorious gods with one attack just after getting his divine mark. He was unparalleled. What about the other one? Senior Zhan Wuxuang has been a Tao Child candidate for a long time. The other person is the challenger, isn't he? He actually has a history with Senior Zhan Wuxuang. You must have heard about the hunting order issued by the Emperor of the Rain clan a while back, right? Their target was none other than him. He is Senior Su Ping, a human being. Was 110. It's him. Everybody was shocked. The hunting order released by a god emperor was effective in the entire Archean divinity. Whoever was marked was basically doomed, unless they hid under a big shot's protection. All of them had heard about the incident between a senior and the Rain clan. It was a surprise to find that it was Su Ping himself. Gossip was spreading fast. Basically none of them had seen him before, but they all knew the things he had done, which gave them a sense of familiarity at the moment. So both of them were badasses. From the look of things, they will probably fight for a long time. A long time? You're overthinking. Senior Zhan Wuxuang has been famous for years. I heard that this Senior Su Ping only survived because the human clan asked for the help of a high-ranked clan's god emperor. Our elders also intervened back then. Do you think he could have survived on his own? I heard it too. That's true. Not just him, even a god king would have only lasted a few days with the hunting order on their head. Everybody else was also deep in discussions. In terms of combat ability, they didn't have high hopes for Su Ping. He had indeed killed a prince of the Rain clan, but the victim had just obtained the title and wasn't even admitted by the Heaven Path Institute. It wasn't unusual for someone like him to be killed. Humph, let's see how arrogant you are, human. Standing in midair above the auditorium, Zhang Yun narrowed her eyes. She overheard all the discussions and agreed that Su Ping didn't have a chance of winning. She was even regretting never having the opportunity to teach the guy a lesson. "Whenever you're ready," said the big-headed child with a grimace. His childish voice echoed in the universe, but nobody dared to underestimate him. "Well," Su Ping couldn't help but raise his hand. "What's the matter?" The big-headed child was surprised. He looked at Su Ping with glittering eyes. The others were equally stunned. Someone asked, "He's not going to forfeit, is he?" "Are there no rules to announce?" Su Ping couldn't help but ask, not expecting the opening to be that simple. It was too short compared to the long-winded speeches of his teachers back in his school days. "Rules?" After a brief daze, the big-headed child laughed in amusement. "The rules are simple. Just defeat your opponent. Of course, not just this one. You must defeat all the 8 candidates in order to win the qualification to challenge a Tao child." "Is any method allowed? What if I kill them by accident?" asked Su Ping. Chapter 1294, Collapse 1. Kill them. Everybody was stunned again. The big-headed child chuckled. That's all right. This is my oceanic universe of clouds. I can reverse time and resurrect you if it comes to that. This is my universe. I make the rules here. I understand. Su Ping nodded. Humph, how arrogant. Zhan Wushwang indifferently gathered a spear in his hand. He shook his weapon and stabbed forward. Su Ping also stepped toward his opponent with a normal expression. After a boom, the spear aura collapsed when it reached a 10-meter distance from Su Ping. Nobody saw the latter do a thing. The aura seemed to have collapsed by the effect of his own force field. Zhan Wushwang narrowed his eyes. That was just a probing attack. He didn't think that Su Ping's reaction would be that casual, as expected of someone who was bold enough to challenge a Dao child. Even though I can't exterminate you, I will kill you once today for having slayed a prince of the Rain clan, declared Zhan Wushwang. Golden light burst out of his eyes, making him look like a god descending upon the land. Whoosh! While holding his spear, he charged forth and instantly tore open the surface of the oceanic universe of clouds, flashing to a point right in front of Su Ping. His golden spear aura darted out like a dragon rising from the sea. In the auditorium behind Su Ping, everybody felt the sharpness and the suffocating pressure of the spear, despite the protective barrier. They were shocked. Zhan Wushwang's casual attack was already that powerful. Boom! Su Ping took action. He moved so quickly that the spear aura suddenly disappeared. Everybody saw the most unbelievable scene. Zhan Wushwang's unstoppable spear was grabbed by Su Ping, just like daring to grab the head of a dangerous snake. A blast was spreading out, but Su Ping's body remained still. You want to kill me, but you're not good enough. Wait, not nearly good enough, said Su Ping. His hand dragged the spear toward him as he spoke. His body dashed forward like a seagull, throwing a punch at Zhan Wushwang's face. The power of chaos burst out of his fist, swallowing all nearby laws like a roaring black hole. Zhan Wushwang's hair was fluttering with the fist aura alone. Zhan Wushwang narrowed his eyes and bellowed, "FCK off." His body was glowing and his other hand punched back. There was a cracking noise, heralding a bone fracture. Disbelief was written all over Zhan Wushwang's face. His arm crumbled, and Su Ping's fist smashed him in the face after dealing with the arm. Zhan Wushwang's head exploded and blood splashed out. But the next moment, the illusion of a universe surfaced behind his back and powerful vitality was emitted. His headless body began to expand significantly, and his long spear glowed as he broke free from Su Ping's grasp. His head quickly grew back. He furiously charged at Su Ping. Is Zhan Wushwang at a disadvantage? Outside of the battlefield, everybody's eyes widened when they saw that happen. Nobody expected that the long-time famous Zhan Wushwang would lose the first clash against Su Ping. Zhan Wushwang was too careless. That human is indeed capable. The other 7 candidates had glittering eyes. Su Ping's performance had made them turn serious. However, a couple of them still wore disdainful expressions. That was the bone-rooted arrogance of a high-ranked prince that could hardly be changed. Boom! There was suppressed fury in Zhan Wushwang's eyes. He was representing the Rain clan, which had been embarrassed by Su Ping time and again. His original plan was to exact revenge by crushing Su Ping with absolute power, but he was humiliated. He pulled all stops and his constitution instantly burst out. Concurrently, a majestic figure arose behind him. It was none other than the Rain clan's ancestral god. The summoned illusion of such a figure was releasing a daunting and suffocating aura throughout the battlefield. The Great Senior's illusion had a universe ball in one hand. It was Zhan Wushwang's universe, which contained unimaginable vitality. Zhan Wushwang is getting serious. He's so strong. Are all the Dao child candidates like him? My shock is going to last for the next 1,000 years. Even the candidates are already unbelievably strong. How crazy must the 3 Dao children be? No wonder some of the mentors are so courteous when interacting with the Dao children, to even go out of their way to greet them. I got angry when I saw that once, thinking that Dao children had no respect for the teachers. I didn't know I was the clown. Countless students were too shocked to speak. Some of them were new students with a Star Lord cultivation. The barrier couldn't fully block the pressure of an ancestral god, and they were feeling the urge to kneel. Back on the battlefield, Su Ping calmly raised his head and stared at the ancestral god's illusion behind Jan Wushwang's back. He had already seen such an illusion before. It had been summoned by Mo Feng, which had forced his star-state old self to go all out just to remain standing. The illusion summoned by Jan Wushwang was more vivid and carried more pressure, but he felt less intimidated. Su Ping was already able to remain calm in front of such illusions, since he had already seen creatures of such rank in the flesh. Chapter 1295, Collapse 2. The universe of chaos in his body was acting like a stabilizer, keeping him firmly standing in the universe. It seemed that nothing could possibly shake him. I am no longer who I used to be. Back then, I only condensed small worlds that could be thrown away at any minute, but I have a universe now. I am the universe. I will not be shaken or intimidated. Su Ping calmly looked at Jan Wushwang, who had a killing aura written all over his face. Is that all your power? It's enough to kill you. Aggression flashed across Jan Wushwang's eyes as he charged with his spear. The ancestral god's illusion behind him also took action, slowly raising a hand and pressing it down to crush Su Ping. The hand was like a mountain blocking the sky. I've cultivated for so long and experienced a myriad of hardships, just so that I would never be humiliated or suppressed. Su Ping suddenly erupted and roared. Space froze all of a sudden and time slowed down. Su Ping tore the void and went straight for Jan Wushwang. His fists turned into a wave of chaos power as they smashed down. Go to hell. Jan Wushwang exerted all his strength too. After a boom, his spear flared out but died out the next moment. The terrifying power of chaos knocked it away, and the fists reached Jan Wushwang's chest. His armor exploded and his eyes widened. Then, his body was also squashed. Boom, his body fell apart. The ancestral god's illusion behind him didn't stop. The universe in his other hand also fell like a meteorite, while the first hand besides kept pressing down. Su Ping raised his head, eyes like sharp swords. He clenched his hand, gathering a sword of chaos and slashing out. The sword aura attacked like a furious dragon. The entire sky seemed to be illuminated for a moment, and the illusory ancestral god's hand was severed. Jan Wushwang's universe was also chopped along with it. Su Ping didn't stop. He carried on and slashed a few more times. The sword auras instantly made contact with the universe and crushed. Chaos obliteration. The godly illusion lost all power and faded once the small universe was shattered. Su Ping was relentless, though. He suddenly raised a hand and projected his universe of chaos, which absorbed Jan Wushwang's broken body and the remains of his universe like an enormous black hole. Oh no! The big-headed child was quick to react. He quickly changed his expression and said, "Stop, stop now." A torrent of power was instantly summoned. Su Ping instantly felt that his body was removed from the battlefield. Although he appeared to still be there, an invisible power was isolating him in another time and space. Huh! Su Ping's face was grim. However, he knew it was impossible to truly exterminate the guy now that a god emperor was intervening. The only thing he could do was to withdraw his power. The childlike elder then removed the restrictions set on him, although he was still on alert. He said to Su Ping, "You won." The silent auditorium, after a brief pause, let out an explosion of applause. Everyone was shocked, not expecting their match to be that short. The whole thing was completely unexpected. They thought it was going to be a fierce and protracted battle, and the human was the victor. Very few had thought he could win. Jan Wushwang of the Rain clan, the famous Dao child candidate, had almost been crushed to death. Is this the strength of the genius chased by the Rain clan? Good Lord, the kid is so ruthless. He almost killed Wushwang for real. The big-headed child was quite shocked. If he hadn't taken action considering Su Ping's methods, He didn't think he would be able to resurrect Zhan Wushwang, even by reserving time and space. The man was erasing the time and space where Zhan Wushwang had existed. The usual would be for that skill to be exclusive to God Emperors and above. Still, it was obvious that Su Ping was still a few realms below. Another elder stroked his beard and said, "Interesting. He doesn't look like a human being. He carries the aura of the Chaos Clan, although it's different from the one I know. He also has the aura of gods." The young man smiled with glittering eyes. Su Ping's performance exceeded his expectations. He did think that the young man had a good fighting chance to beat the other candidates, but the latter ended up being truly unstoppable when he defeated his first opponent, Zhan Wushwang. They didn't even see him reveal his universe. Zhan Wushwang, on the other hand, didn't use all his secret techniques or power, but he activated the most powerful constitution and the ancestral god's illusion. Even so, he failed to beat the other. The gap between them was too wide. Zhan Wushwang failed just like that. Is he made of mud? Why is he so weak? Humph, all the people from the Rain clan look stronger than they really are. The other 7 candidates wore solemn expressions. Zhan Wushwang had lost all too fast, not even forcing his opponent to use his trump cards. That was partly because the guy was weak, and also partly because Su Ping was indeed extraordinary. He was among the strongest at the very least. "You do have something." Tan Xiangyun narrowed her eyes. "I'll have others reveal your trump cards first. I'm going to teach you a good lesson once I figure them out." At that moment, the big-headed child waved a hand to reverse time and space in the battlefield. Su Ping's depleted strength was reinstated. He was back in his prime condition. In the meantime, Zhan Wushwang was resurrected. The latter received all the memories related to his failure after being brought back to life. He then glared at Su Ping, trembling with fury. It was humiliating. He had wanted to teach Su Ping a good lesson, but he was slapped in the face once again. "Get lost," said Su Ping with a glance, not wanting to interact anymore. He was angry since he failed to kill the guy, but he could only accept it since an elder had intervened. "Don't be too arrogant." Zhan Wushwang gnashed his teeth, eyes almost dripping blood. Su Ping replied coldly, "I can afford to be arrogant, can you? Are you even qualified to talk to me, loser? FCK off." Zhan Wushwang looked grim after the verbal abuse, but the undeniable fact was that he lost. The Rain clan won't forget this. He gritted his teeth and turned around. "You'd better not. Find a way to kill me if you can, or I will make every member of the Rain clan kneel before me and apologize someday," said the ruthless Su Ping with a snort. He had already offended the Rain clan anyway. Might as well seize the chance to pummel the high-ranked clan's dignity. "You!" Blood rose to Zhan Wushwang's head and almost lost all rationality. He barely managed to hold back and stay silent. He simply left. The people in the audience felt conflicted as they watched him leave. They had heard the conversation on the battleground. None of them expected him to be as domineering. However, a talented genius on the Chaos Talents rank seemed to deserve such arrogance. It was surprising that the Rain clan chose to hold it. "I don't know why, but I feel kind of good after seeing a high-ranked clan be abused like this." "Hush, just keep it to yourself. Don't say it out loud. High-ranked clans will never stop being condescending, even if justice and fairness are always upheld in this institute." While feeling happy, some students of middle-ranked clans had the sudden thought that the high-ranked clans, always looking down upon them, weren't really as untouchable. As for students of the other high-ranked clans, they scorned the Rain clan. A faction of such a high standing was unable to finish off a mere human being and was humiliated just then. It was a disgrace to all the high-ranked clans. "This kid truly is like senior sister Yan Huang. When he offends someone, he just keeps offending them, never considering the idea of making up for it," said an elder with a bitter smile. The cold girl who stood at the center said indifferently, "That's what you should do. If you offended them, why bother to redress the situation? You must strike your enemy, no matter the cost or the consequences. Why bother making enemies if you're not prepared to do that? Because your life is too easy. Chapter 1296, Go Together 1. Okay, who's next? The big-headed child looked at the 7 remaining candidates and asked, who's willing to fight next? They exchanged looks. One of them, a tall fellow with an elephant head, stepped out. He was the prince of the Divine Elephant Clan, one of the high-ranked. It was said that the Divine Elephant Clan carried part of the Wying, an ancient mythical creature. Any adult member of the clan was able to uproot a mountain with ease. No one else competed for the turn as he stepped up. None of them bore personal grudges against Su Ping, and neither had an urge to fight him right away. They wouldn't have to fight if Su Ping lost. There would still be a chance for them to take action if he did win. Okay, go. The big-headed child nodded. The barrier covering the battlefield opened, and the genius of the Divine Elephant Clan landed gracefully. Su Ping remained expressionless as he looked at his opponent, feeling the concealed, vast aura in him. Right when the battle was about to begin, he suddenly raised his head and looked at the 5 elders. Can I make a request? The big-headed child raised his eyebrows, given how Su Ping always had something to say every time a battle was about to begin. While holding back his anger, he asked, What is it? Rests are not allowed. Challenges are continuous. I actually had you return to your prime state, which makes things fair. They're not fighting you in turns. I know. Su Ping nodded. I wanted to ask whether or not I could challenge a few of them at the same time. The audience became as silent as the dead. All eyes were looking at Su Ping in shock. They couldn't believe their ears. What the heck? Challenge a few of them at the same time. We've seen arrogant people, but none as arrogant as this one. Is he truly one of the ever docile and obedient humans? The genius of the Divine Elephant Clan became gloomy. He had no grudges against Su Ping and merely volunteered because he was interested in that human. Such a request was like a slap in the face for him. Is this man looking down on me? What's the meaning of this? The genius of the Divine Elephant Clan was gold. The big-headed child asked with a strange expression, You want to challenge many of them at the same time. Tell me, how many are we talking about? Su Ping's request was surprising, which also piqued their curiosity. A dedicated genius like Su Ping was definitely not a brainless moron. He surely knew what he was doing. There are 7 left. Let's split them into a group of 4 and a group of 3. Su Ping looked at them and decided to be safe. Challenging 7 in one go could be risky. You. The candidates' faces changed. They were infuriated by the proposal. Tan Xiangyun's expression also changed a bit. She was exasperated. In all the years since had been in the Heaven Path Institute, a place where geniuses gathered, she had never seen anyone be that arrogant. You're free to act smug however you wish, but does it have to be here too? Even the princes had to keep a low profile in the Heaven Path Institute, even though they were veritable geniuses in the outside world. Are you challenging the dignity of the Divine Elephant Clan? The Elephant Clan genius was thoroughly enraged. He was surrounded by terrifying flames, ready to teach Su Ping a lesson. Su Ping looked at him and said, Sorry, nothing personal. I'm just pressed for time and hope I can get this over with as soon as possible. This challenge is taking too long. I'd rather spend my time cultivating. You. The elephant-headed opponent was confused by Su Ping's sincere attitude. The attitude was indeed arrogant, but his tone was extremely genuine. Why does it feel so weird? Are you sure? The big-headed child looked at Su Ping while his face showed great interest, as if eager for drama. It's the young human who proposed the challenge anyway. Even an ordinary adult had to back his words, not to mention that he was a talent. If he failed to overcome the challenge, he would have to wait for the next opportunity. The waiting could take a long time. I am sure. Su Ping nodded. This little fella. The rest of the elders were shocked by Su Ping's boldness, not sure if he was brave, arrogant, or just confident. But displaying confidence had to go hand in hand with carrying out what the challenger declared. Anything else would be pure arrogance. None of the humans we know talk like that, do they? He has ancestral god's potential. He'll surely become a Tao child someday. I can understand where his pride comes from. Still, challenging a couple of candidates is too much. They may not be Tao children, but the gap between them is that wide. The elders chatted amongst themselves nonstop, while keeping outward silence as they watched. The decision was made by Su Ping, and he had to be responsible for what he said. It seemed that they weren't teaching adult, independent geniuses, but toddlers that constantly required their guidance and reminders. The youngish-looking elder felt rather helpless. Su Ping's arrogance exceeded his expectations too. The human who once saved him, as well as the other humans he had met over the years, were nothing like that. If that is your wish, so be it. Let's gather a group of 3 for now. Which 2 of you are willing to join in the challenge? Asked the big-headed child. Everybody looked at each other in bewilderment, not expecting this to happen. Chapter 1297, Go Together 2. The duel turned into a gang fight. Let me. A tall and handsome young man stepped up with indifference in his eyes. Although it won't be gratifying even if I win, I will have him pay the price for his arrogance. Count me in, said another young man, stockily built with a bare face. He was also a genius from a high-ranked clan. The barrier closed after the 2 of them entered the battlefield. At the auditorium, countless people were holding their breath and watching. The battle between Su Ping and Zhan Wuxuang had ended too quickly for them to enjoy fully. Little did they expect that the former would propose a match against 3. Would he succeed? If he did, he would set a new record for Tao Child Challenge. Just stand by and watch. I can finish him off on my own, said the now gloomy genius of the Divine Elephant clan to the newcomers. Since we're here, we won't be standing by. I will have him pay a price for his arrogance, said the handsome young man indifferently. The elephant-faced genius turned around and glared at him. I said I can finish him off on my own. Didn't you hear what I said? The handsome warrior frowned and gazed at him coldly. The atmosphere became intense. The audience was shocked. Infighting was unexpected, especially before they went after Su Ping. If you have doubts about me, I can go ahead and dispel them for you right now. The elephant-faced expert turned around and looked at the handsome fellow coldly, like a newfound target. Is that so? I'll move to finish you off too, said the aloof, good-looking fellow. You 2 are really interesting. Why don't you fight it out and leave him to me? Go play games elsewhere. The bulky bear chuckled and asked Su Ping, shall we begin? Okay. Su Ping nodded. Whoosh! The bulky bear suddenly dashed, almost disappearing in an instant, to quickly reappear in front of Su Ping. He was so fast that many in the audience had yet to realize what happened. The next moment, the bulky bear moved to smash forth with his fist. Even the wind caused by the attack was already leaving deep claw marks on the ground underneath Su Ping's feet. His attack was highly destructive. When he moved, he was like lightning. But then an explosion burst out. Su Ping also swung his fists, and they reached the target sooner. The pair of brilliant fists appeared out of nowhere. Like a giant Buddha reciting a sutra, he unleashed a magnificent fist aura able to suppress all the demons in the world. After a boom, the bulky bear smashed into the ground with twisted arms. While looking at the miserable opponent on the ground, Su Ping asked out of concern, "You weren't ready yet." The bulky bear rose from the ground, grim-faced and brutal. His twisted arms were soon healed, and his body soared, growing to a height dozens of meters tall. He was wearing ancient stone armor, armed with a gigantic axe as he stared at Su Ping like a god looking down. The first clash helped him realize how strong the young human was. No wonder Zhan Wuxuang failed. Humph! Is this what the Heavenly Bear clan is capable of? The other contenders narrowed their eyes, noticing how their temporary colleagues suffered a setback. Although confident of killing Su Ping on their own, they had to get serious because of Su Ping's performance. Get lost! The bulky bear ignored them and simply charged at Su Ping with the axe. The illusion of a gargantuan beast appeared behind him. It was fuzzy and undistinguishable, but it released a blood-curdling aura. That was the ancestor of the Heavenly Bear clan who had received the most mythical bloodline from the Age of Chaos. Su Ping vaguely felt an urge rise in his blood upon seeing that illusion behind the guy's back, instinctively transforming his constitution. An ancient and barbaric aura emerged in his body soon after, along with an ominous shriek. A scorching golden shadow appeared behind Su Ping's back and flapped its wings, as if about to swallow the world. That shadow was none other than the golden crow, which was as dazzling as the sun. All the people witnessing the fight felt dazed after seeing the shadow invoked by Su Ping. For him to have the power of ancient mythical creatures in his body was unexpected. Even though he was a human being, Su Ping had received lots of treasures, and his bloodline was no longer pure. Whoosh! Su Ping rose like a great eagle and flew toward the genius of the Heavenly Bear clan. Chaotic sky-splitting slash. The genius of the Heavenly Bear clan roared, with Tao patterns surfacing on his skin. Behind his back, there was a brownish universe like a planet about to hit the ground. A magnificent power flowed out of the universe as his axe slash moved. Space was shattering. All light seemed to have been swallowed. Everybody had been surprised by that axe. Even though they were watching right there, they felt like ants about to get crushed. Bang! But the next moment, the terrifying aura and influence were gone. The mind-blowing axe was replaced by a sword aura. The aura didn't hit the axe. Still, it passed right through the bulky bear's body. Broken arm. Body falling apart. The bulky bear's condensed power like a punctured balloon stiffened, then quickly declined. Su Ping had appeared behind his back at some point, ablaze with golden flames. He turned around, and the bulky bear's body, as well as the brownish universe in midair, was enshrouded in golden divine fire to burn like an enormous fireball. The heat waves made everybody feel drenched in sweat. Both the genius of the divine elephant clan and the handsome young man were both dazed and surprised. The bulky bear was just a candidate like the rest of them. They never saw each other eye to eye, but they had to admit that the gap between themselves and their rivals wasn't huge. But then the bulky bear's vitality began to decline rapidly. The effect was irreversible. He lost already. "It's your turn now," he said while dealing an axe slash. Su Ping's voice resounded as he charged toward the young man of the divine elephant clan. "Are you kidding me?" The genius elephant warrior looked at the bulky bear's enormous body, which was still burning. Then he sneered, "Fine, let me finish you off." Boom! A blade aura resembling a crescent moon slashed at Su Ping, only to be knocked aside. The attack wasn't dealt by the protege of the divine elephant clan, it was someone else. "You!" The genius of the divine elephant clan was infuriated. The handsome young man glanced at him and said, "If you're still reluctant, I will work with him, but I'll finish you off first." The elephant-faced genius cursed in his heart, but he had to let the guy do what he wanted, considering how things had reached that point. If Su Ping did win against the three contenders, they would be too ashamed to see anyone. Hellish suppressive punch. The genius of the divine elephant clan roared and expanded, becoming hundreds of meters tall. Such a size didn't show any clumsiness. He threw a punch at Su Ping, causing a dent in the void. The furious punch caused a storm of laws on the battlefield, which would be enough to kill normal ascendants in the area. Su Ping coldly punched back. He used God's Arrival, the secret technique, unleashing 30% of his Chaos Universe's power. His fist had never been as powerful. Bam! The two terrifying fist auras collided in midair, like two destructive meteors. Countless laws and Tao patterns splashed out in the explosion. A blade of pure white color emerged from the exploding fist auras. It was the handsome young man's attack. Su Ping casually sliced it and moved elsewhere. He continued attacking the genius of the divine elephant clan, not giving him a chance to rest. "You!" The latter was shocked. He had used the most brutal first technique of his clan, but Su Ping had resisted it. He was unable to launch another attack for the moment. Roar! An ear-splitting sound wave burst out, and an ancient illusion appeared. It was Wying, a mythical creature from the Age of Chaos. It gazed at the battlefield with a solemn attitude, commonly seen in the barbaric era. Chapter 1298, Daochild Qingmu 1. The genius of the divine elephant clan became significantly stronger as the illusion of the mythical creature emerged. Like a god of war, he stomped on the void with black lotuses underneath his feet. He punched, creating an all-encompassing black cage. Many black fists protruded from the cage and smacked Su Ping aggressively. The latter was already caught by that cage of fists, but he remained calm and poised. A shriek burst out all of a sudden, like a spear able to pierce the sky. It was produced by the golden crow behind him. It was a clash between two mythical creatures from the Age of Chaos, with the golden crow's bloodline being definitely superior to the Wying's. Destroy. Su Ping exerted the power of his universe of chaos and slashed furiously. Boom! The entire prison shattered, and countless fist auras were extinguished. The brilliant sword illuminated the entire battlefield like polar lights. The eyes of countless people were stung by the sword's sharpness. All of them trembled just by staring at the weapon. Don't get too cocky. Right when the sword was about to hit the elephant-faced genius, a crescent moon blocked the attack and crushed the energy blast. The proud genius was sent back flying with an awful expression, not expecting that Su Ping could resist his most powerful move and nearly hurt him. The handsome young man was the one who acted at the last critical moment. Normal candidates might not be able to suppress you. The latter gazed at Su Ping coldly. He had to admit that Su Ping was indeed strong, presumably among the top tier of all the candidates. None of them was confident enough to beat Su Ping on their own. Was that your sword technique? Su Ping's eyes turned cold while looking at the ever-meddling candidate. It's fast but not powerful enough. If your sword cannot destroy all the other weapons, you should use a needle instead. He swung his sword as he talked. The sword roared like a white dragon. Its wake created deep ravines on the ground. The handsome young man snorted and said, "There are thousands of sword techniques. Who are you to question mine?" There was a boom. A crescent moon slashed out again and blocked Su Ping's attack, disrupting the laws in Su Ping's sword and detonating them in advance. Only the dispersing energy was left alone. While the impact was a fatal threat to normal ascendants, god kings like them could easily resist. You're wrong. There are thousands of sword techniques, but they're all trivial and they lead to the same destination. That's what I pursue, declared Su Ping coldly. He then swung his sword again, launching an attack as powerful as the previous one. The handsome young man was shocked to see how Su Ping could perform such a powerful sword technique again and again. Mine is also an ultimate sword technique. Survival is the only destination. The handsome fellow counterattacked, reluctant to give in. His sword contained a destructive power that was able to deform some of the attacks. Adding his excellent speed, he was able to easily defuse the enemy's attacks. Sword auras flashed about randomly as they kept fighting. Any of them was enough to cut a galaxy to pieces, turning a part of the universe into a forbidden zone. However, such high-intensity clashes almost lasted 5 minutes. It was truly dazzling. At the auditorium, the students were already flabbergasted, while their mentors had even deeper feelings. Since their power was closer to Su Ping's level, they had a better understanding of the subtleness and horror of some of the techniques. What kind of monsters are they? Are all the geniuses on the Chaos Talents rank as terrifying as them? Everybody was holding their breath. They stared intently at the battlefield without blinking, even though their eyes were stinging, as they didn't want to miss a thing. The unparalleled clash of swords was too sophisticated for them to understand, but the superficial display was already intoxicating enough. All of a sudden, the sword auras were gone. Su Ping stopped. The handsome young man also stopped. His breathing was heavy as he quickly made up for the power he consumed with his laws. His eyes turned even colder. "You'd better admit defeat if this is the best you've got," said the latter. Chaos projection. He was answered by Su Ping's cold and expressionless words. The handsome opponent suddenly narrowed his eyes as he felt a bone-piercing chill. He hurriedly looked around, only to discover that the power of chaos resulting from their sword clashes was gathering into tiny planets around him. This is... Boom! The void shook, and the dashing young man felt that his heart was being clenched by a hand. His body started to tremble. His heart was wreathed by an indescribable pressure. Paralyzed, he could easily be swallowed by that behemoth. Break! Su Ping raised his head and looked at the handsome fellow, clenching his fist. The surrounding space began to shrink all of a sudden, and the young man finally realized the problem. Appalled, he quickly released his universe in an attempt to break free. However, the pressure was unimaginably powerful, like that of a god-emperor's universe. It contained an absolute crushing force. No way! The handsome young man lost his cool. How could someone of the same level be so much stronger than me? Boom! His body glowed, and even the universe behind his back exploded. Chapter 1299, Dao Child Qing Mu 2. Time and space collapsed within the blast radius. It would be impossible to revive him just by reserving time and space. The unexpected scene shocked a lot of people. The conclusion of a battle that was considered evenly matched came with the abrupt death of one participant. It was surprising. Did the kid purposefully clash with that guy's sword? An elder smiled in approval. The big-headed child said helplessly, "He's indeed smart, but he's too brutal. How did he pass the admission test anyway?" Him being brutal doesn't mean he's a bad person. He would be a saint if he kills all the villains in the world. It would be stupid for him to treat the good and the bad in the same way. The young man chuckled, clearly liking Su Ping's personality. Obviously, his bias towards human beings also played a part. He favored any of their actions. Boom! On the battlefield, gloomy and silent, the genius of the divine elephant clan gazed at the remains of the handsome young man. He finally snorted and said, "Good. There's nobody in the way anymore. We can have a fair fight." Before he could finish, a sword aura went slashing toward him. The elephant-faced genius had a slight change of expression as he countered with a furious punch to break the sword aura. He ended up with a deep wound on his fist. A second, then a third sword aura went after him before he could even respond with a roar. The burly genius was infuriated, opting for punching continuously. His fists were bleeding after countering the sword auras. His recovery rate was unable to catch up with the increasing wounds. Phew! Su Ping followed right behind the sword auras, with the chaos universe illusion surfacing. He punched furiously, his fist being as massive as a planet, brilliantly enveloping the genius of the divine elephant clan. Boom! The latter narrowed his eyes and swung his fists as he roared. The next moment, his body was sent flying thousands of kilometers away, leaving a wide space between them. Su Ping retracted his fist and looked at him indifferently. "You're no match for me. Don't waste my time, go back." "You!" The genius of the divine elephant clan flew into a rage, eyes bloodshot. He had never been insulted like that before. His blood was burning and his strength increased yet again. The enormous Wying illusion almost looked real. He punched with an appalling red light in his eyes. Chaos vortices flashed in Su Ping's eyes, and killing intent was rising. While looking at the enormous fist heading toward him, he suddenly condensed the intense power of chaos in his blade. There was an explosion. The fist exploded, and a scream seemed to originate from the void. The genius of the divine elephant clan fell apart. The illusion behind him also turned blurry. Su Ping dashed forward and kicked him in the head, making his enormous body collapse. He then sat between the enormous opponent's eyebrows, pointing his sword downwards. The edge of the weapon was only 10 centimeters from one of his huge eyeballs. Their movements came to a stop. Everybody was shocked. Undoubtedly, Su Ping won, 3-1. Excluding the person who was defeated in the beginning, the other two had attacked him simultaneously. However, they were still defeated by Su Ping. This guy. There was shock in Tan Xiangyun's eyes. never expecting the young human to be as strong. No wonder he stirred up the world recently and everybody knows him. He's strong, terrifyingly so. How embarrassing. There was another beautiful woman who was clad in a red dress. Her look was quite grim. It was a disgrace to all the candidates. Cheers were heard after a moment of silence. Many people even stood given their excitement, including some of their mentors. It was splendid and legendary. The man fought against 3 and won the Tao Child Challenge. Whether or not he became a Tao Child, that battle would be remembered in the Heaven Path Institute for years to come. So this is what the geniuses of this world are like. He's so terrifying. They're all monsters on the Chaos Talents rank, but the difference between them was too great. Is he really that strong? Wouldn't it be like chopping vegetables if they ever fought against normal people at their level? While everybody talked excitedly, the genius of the Divine Elephant Clan disappeared from underneath Su Ping's feet to reappear thousands of meters away. There was only shock, humiliation, and suppressed fury on this face at the moment. "You won," said the big-headed child with a smile. "I never thought you would carve a legend today. Interesting. I'm thinking even more highly of you." He turned around and looked at the elephant-faced genius. "You lost. Step back." The latter had an awful expression on his face. He left the battlefield in silence. Right before exiting, he said to Su Ping, "Don't slack off when you become a Tao Child. I will challenge you." "Don't look for me. I won't be free," said Su Ping indifferently. The genius of the Divine Elephant Clan nearly tripped over. Su Ping's attitude was truly unnerving. In the void, the other 4 candidates wore grim expressions. Should we really go together? It wouldn't be gratifying even if they won, while it would be downright embarrassing if they lost. They would only become his stepping stones. Years from that day, people would only remember Su Ping defeating 4 candidates at the same time. They wouldn't even know their names because nobody was interested in losers. "Everyone." Suddenly, one of them said, "If you trust me, I will fight him alone. If I lose, we will make way for him and have him challenge the Tao Child. It won't be our business whether or not he wins. We've done our best as both candidates and Tao Child's protectors." The other 3 were dazed for a moment but then realized what he was thinking. Tan Xiangyun said with glittering eyes, "All right then. In any case, it would be humiliating to fight him together, win or lose. Senior brother Qing Mu can be our representative. You're the strongest among us. If you can't beat him, he would truly be qualified to challenge the Tao Child." "That works. Senior brother Qing Mu is our last line of defense. I trust him," said another. "He's all yours, Senior brother Qing Mu. Teach him a good lesson to wipe the arrogance of his inferior clan." Although humanity was considered a middle-rank clan, some only had eyes for their own people while the rest were like ants. There was no such thing as a middle-rank clan as far as they knew. Even the less remarkable among high-rank clans were also seen as ants by some of the oldest high-rank clans. Since they all agreed, the black-haired young man nodded and left for the battlefield. He told the elder about the arrangement. The big-headed child understood their reasoning and nodded in approval. Su Ping frowned, seeing that the other 3 people were standing farther in the void. "Why is it just you?" "I am Qing Mu, a prince of the Immortality Clan, one of the 7 greatest clans." The black-haired young man was calm, unfazed by the question. "I used to be a Tao Child, but I failed to defend my position and was demoted. They will forfeit if you can beat me, and then you can challenge the Tao Child." Dazed, Su Ping nodded. "I understand that's for the best." "It's Tao Child Qing Mu." Tao Child Qing Mu is taking action already. Isn't he always the last one to be challenged? Looks like he's planning to end this competition in advance. He must have been angered by that human. Qing Mu was known by many of the students and mentors who had been in the institute for a long time. He was a shocking and unparalleled genius. Despite him losing his Tao Child position, everybody respected him and addressed him with his old title. "The match is yours if you survive 3 of my attacks," said Qing Mu calmly. "Okay." Su Ping accepted. That kind of quick bout was exactly what he was hoping for. Chapter 1300, Dark Power 1. Qing Mu said no more, considering how confident Su Ping was acting. The latter's combat ability did qualify him to act that way. He calmly and steadily walked towards Su Ping. The divine power he was emitting increased with each step. After a few dozen steps, he was already ablaze with dazzling divine power, like an ancient god. There was a magnificent shadow vaguely forming near the void behind him. The shadow was neither human nor beast, rather it looked like a huge tree. The towering tree had lots of branches and leaves, and carried an overwhelming aura of life. That was the totem worshipped by the Immortality clan. It was also the divine bloodline in their bodies, which belonged to the world tree from the Age of Chaos. That's the core power of the immortal clan. Only descendants with the purest bloodlines have a chance to awaken it. The world tree. It's said that the world tree yields fruits of the universe and is home to ancient mythical creatures. You can directly become a god king if you ever eat one of them. Look, that's the power of Tao Child Qing Mu. As everybody held their breath and watched, 3 glittering round fruits appeared on the world tree. Each of those fruits emitted a succulent aura from the universe itself. 3 universes. Such a sight left everyone in awe. They were rendered speechless, as if they were seeing something from eons past. That was the core power that made the Immortality clan one of the 7 greatest. Su Ping was rather astonished by the scene. 3 universes. He could tell that all 3 universes were real. All of them contained abundant laws. The difference between a universe and an ascendant world was the completeness of laws. The world was flawed and incomplete, while the universe was full and independent. However, the power of Tao glyphs in the universe is not so great. Although their combination has been boosted, the power of each individual universe is not quite impressive. Su Ping soon realized this shortcoming. If the weakest universe was as powerful as one complete Tao glyph, the more Tao glyphs a universe contained, the more powerful it would be. Each of the X-Tao Child's 3 universes contained the power of 2 Tao glyphs. The 3 of them combined was equal to a universe with 6 Tao glyphs. However, because of the special world tree's enhancing power, they could compare to 9 Tao glyphs. "Come on," said Tao Child Qing Mu. He was attacking openly, even warning Su Ping in advance. His power was so domineering that, if Su Ping could resist it head-on, it would attest to his terrifying strength. Su Ping had a solemn expression. He concealed his godly aura in his body and combined his bloodlines into that of the primitive Chaos clan. The amount of Chaos aura he was emitting at the moment was such that many people's eyes were glowing. The Chaos creatures had always been a great nourishment. The Chaos clan. The elders narrowed their eyes. They had long detected the aura of Chaos creatures in Su Ping's body, but they thought it had to do with the Golden Crow. Just then, it was revealed that it was because of Su Ping's own bloodline. The multiple small worlds of the Heaven Path Institute were inspired by the Chaos World Tree, back when our ancestral god studied it. Unfortunately, it's only possible to condense multiple small worlds. Multi-universes require the bloodline of the Immortality clan, remarked an elder. The big-headed child said, "That's not what I heard. It's not that the ancestral god was unable to improve the cultivation technique to the god king's level. He simply thought it was unnecessary. It's not difficult to find a replacement for the Chaos World Tree to accommodate multiple universes, but that's not the right approach. It would only waste your energy." "That is correct," the young-looking overlord said. "There used to be a sunwood cultivation technique in the Institute which enabled the establishment of multiple universes. You can cultivate a sun divine tree with the sunwood cultivation technique as a replacement for the Chaos World Tree. It's not as effective, but it works. However, the universes tend to merge in the end. That is why Qing Mu was squeezed out from the Tao Child roster. While the Immortality clan has great talent, they spend too many resources and effort cultivating that others can eventually catch up. However, the ancestral god of the Immortality clan is in the top 5 rankers of our world. I wonder what direction the ancestral god has," said Yan Huang, the aloof girl. The old-looking senior turned to look at her. Is senior sister Yan Huang studying the way of the ancestral gods already? Everybody was surprised. They couldn't help but look at the girl. Yan Huang said indifferently, "We're ultimate emperors already. Isn't it natural for us to pursue the eternal level?" "Awesome, senior sister," the big-headed child was compelled to remark. The others were lost for words too. None of them expected her to be already studying the secrets of the ancestral god realm. Such a fact implied that she was way above them. While they discussed, the pressure on the battlefield was accumulated to the maximum. The Chaos World Tree was occupying half of the battlefield, and the three universes hanging on the tree were emitting a dazzling light. Su Ping remained still under the tree shade while gazing at his opponent. Fall of Chaos. Qing Mu raised a hand. The power around him was suddenly absorbed by the three universes. Then, all three shot enormous projections. Those projections darted towards Su Ping with destructive power. Su Ping condensed a sword of chaos in his hand and slashed to counter, eliminating all the projections with his sword auras.